Chapter 1. Shadows of Confinement. Eldur opened his eyes to a realm submerged in shadows, the air thick with the echoes of ancient powers and lost voices. This world, detached from reality, pulsed with a deep, undulating darkness that seemed alive with the memories of his past deeds. As he rose to his feet, the shadows around him whispered of battles fought and kingdoms fallen, echoes of a life spent in pursuit of domination and power. As he wandered through this shadowy landscape, Eldur's heart grew heavy with anger. He was a creature of ambition and control, not one to be confined or forgotten like an old legend tucked away in the dusty pages of human books. His memories, unlike those of his companions, remained painfully intact, each one a sharp reminder of what he had lost and what he was determined to regain. In the distance, a fortress loomed, a massive structure carved from the very essence of the Shadow Realm. Its towers pierced the swirling mists, standing as a beacon in this otherwise formless expanse. With a sense of purpose reignited, Eldur strode towards the fortress, his resolve hardening with each step. As he approached the grand gates of the fortress, he noticed a peculiar shimmer in the air at the center of the main hall. A small rift in reality, glowing faintly, seemed to pulse with a potential escape, or perhaps a portal to a world he once ruled. His heart raced with the possibility of breaking free from this spectral prison. Just as he reached out to touch the rift, a powerful voice boomed through the hall, echoing off the stone walls with a command that halted him in his tracks. "Halt! Go no further!" From the shadows, a figure emerged. The custodian of the Shadow Realm, Vaylin, stood before him. His form was both fluid and constant, a paradoxical presence crafted from the very essence of the realm itself. Vaylin's appearance, his silhouette blurred and shifting, surrounded by a halo of dim light that seemed to flicker with the beat of this hidden world's heart. "Vaylin," Eldur said, his voice a mix of recognition and defiance. "I am bound by no chains, not even those woven by cosmic decree." Vaylin regarded Eldur with a gaze that held the weight of eons. "I am the Keeper, Eldur, created by the cosmic forces to guard this realm and ensure that none who are confined here may return to the reality from which they have been banished. You are here because the balance of your world could no longer tolerate your chaos." Eldur's fists clenched at his sides. "I will not be held by shadows and whispers. I demand return to my domain." The Shadow Realm is not merely a prison, but a crucible. Here, you will face the consequences of your past, and perhaps find redemption or eternal damnation. Vaylin replied calmly, his voice echoing with a resonance that suggested not just authority, but an immutable decree. With the introduction of Vaylin, the chapter sets the stage for Eldur's journey within the Shadow Realm, a journey that could either lead to his return to power or his final fall into the abyss of forgotten legends. The dynamics between the willful Eldur and the dutiful Vaylin promise a clash of epic proportions, as one seeks freedom and the other ensures order. Chapter 2. Echoes of the Shadow Realm. As Eldur reached out to the shimmering rift, determined to reclaim his place in reality, the rift seemed to stretch infinitely away from his grasp. Despite his considerable power, the rift remained just beyond his reach, an elusive gateway mocking his efforts. "You cannot leave this place," Vaylin's voice echoed around him, omnipresent and firm. "Your powers are insignificant here." With a dismissive wave of his hand, Vaylin demonstrated his dominion over this domain. Eldur was suddenly thrust backward by an unseen force, tumbling through the shadows until darkness consumed him. Moments later, Eldur awoke with a start, finding himself back where his day had begun, far from the fortress and the tantalizing rift. He lay on the cold, shadow-drenched ground, the realization of his powerlessness settling over him like a suffocating blanket. Valen is all-powerful in this place, Eldor muttered to himself, his voice tinged with frustration and defeat. I am but an insect, crawling at his feet. Determined not to succumb to despair, Eldor stood and began to wander through the vast, nebulous landscape of the Shadow Realm. As he walked, the realm seemed to pulse with the echoes of its prisoners, mythical legends and creatures reduced to mere wisps and shadows. Once mighty entities, now confined to the margins of reality, their powers nothing more than fleeting memories. Eldor's path led him through a swirling mist where he witnessed the spectre of a powerful demon, locked in an eternal battle with an unseen foe. The demon roared and struck with ferocity, but as Eldor approached, the image dissolved into the shadows, leaving a haunting silence in its wake. Continuing his journey, Eldor glimpsed the grandeur of ancient castles and halls, where shadowy figures of powerful elders debated and ruled. These visions of past supremacy were equally transient, fading into the mist as he neared. The land of shadow revealed its inhabitants in brief, vivid displays. Mighty werewolves prowling the ethereal forests, vampires in their darkened enclaves, exuding an air of lost nobility, and other mythical beings, like gargoyles perched atop forgotten ruins, their stone eyes surveying a realm they could no longer touch. Each figure appeared real and tangible for a fleeting moment, before melting back into the darkness from which they had emerged. As Eldor witnessed these phantoms of power and terror, he realized that the Shadow Realm was not just a prison, but a mirror reflecting the tragedies of its captives. Each creature, each legend that had once inspired awe and fear, now existed only as a shadow of its former self, powerless, aimless, and trapped within the confines of this dark purgatory. But Eldor, ever the strategist, saw more than despair in these apparitions. He saw potential allies, echoes of power that might, under his guidance, find a way to resist Valen's omnipotence. It is my destiny to return to reality, he proclaimed into the oppressive darkness. And if I am to escape this cursed realm, I must gather these shadows under my command. With a newfound resolve, Eldor set out to rally the remnants of supernatural might, hoping to uncover a weakness in Valen's armor, a chink through which they all might finally break free. Chapter 3. The Keeper's Decree. Eldor sat forlornly on the cold, shadow-strewn ground, his brilliant mind whirling with potential strategies that might offer an escape from this ethereal prison. As he pondered deeply, a voice resounded through the shadowy expanse, reverberating with absolute authority. There is no escape, Eldor, and soon you too shall become no more than a shadow, merely a fable within forgotten lore. Startled, Eldor turned to see Valen standing ominously behind him. The Keeper's presence was both awe-inspiring and chilling, a stark reminder of the absolute power he wielded over the Shadow Realm. I show you these visions so you may fully grasp the hopelessness of your confinement. Reality was not meant for you or your kind. You are destined to be nothing more than shadows and fables, now and for all eternity. Eldor's gaze met Valen's unyielding eyes, searching for any sign of weakness in the cosmic being before him. With a defiant tone, Eldor challenged him. And what does that make you, Valen? You too are bound to this realm. Valen's expression remained impassive as he responded, No, Eldor, I am not a prisoner. I am the Keeper of the Shadows. My purpose is to ensure that reality remains untainted by your kind. Refusing to cower, Eldor retorted sarcastically, Then make me a shadow, a mere wisp, a memory. It cannot possibly be as tedious as having to endure your pontifications. But in that moment, Valen had already vanished, as if he were nothing more than a mirage or a trick of the light. Eldur looked around at the vast emptiness that surrounded him, the desolation of the Shadow Realm stretching infinitely in every direction. Mighty Valen has formidable power, but there must be a way for me to claim it, Eldur mumbled to himself, his voice a mix of determination and vexation. Determined to find a crack in the seemingly impervious armor of the Keeper, Eldur rose to his feet. He knew that understanding Valen's source of power was crucial. If Valen derived his strength from the Shadow Realm itself, perhaps there was a way to turn that power against him. As night fell deeper across the realm of shadows, Eldur wandered through the eerie landscape, each step fueling his resolve. He knew the key to his freedom lay in unraveling the mysteries of this realm and its keeper, the whispers of the past, the echoes of mythical creatures, and the legends of old. Each held clues that Eldur intended to piece together. His plan was audacious, perhaps bordering on the impossible, but Eldur had always thrived in the face of adversity. If there was even a sliver of hope that he could harness the realm's power, he would find it, or be lost to the shadows trying. Chapter 4. The Hidden Refuge. You there? A faint voice called out, barely more than a whisper against the eerie silence of the Shadow Realm. Eldur spun around, scanning the desolate landscape, but saw nothing. Over here, the voice insisted. Focusing more intently, Eldur noticed a shimmering in the air, like a mirage or heat wave. Yes, the voice said, seeming to emanate from the distortion itself. As Eldur approached, an arm, an oddly proportioned, dwarfish limb, reached out and pulled him through the anomaly. He stumbled into a dimly lit cave, its walls aglow with a soft, unnatural light. Before him stood a small, dwarfish man, ancient and gnarled like the roots of an old tree. His eyes twinkled with a mix of mischief and wisdom. "Who are you?" Eldur demanded, regaining his composure. "And what is this place?" The dwarf chuckled softly, his voice crackling like dry leaves. "I am called Torbin, and this, my reluctant guest, is my sanctuary. I've dwelled here for many cycles, hidden from the Keeper's all-seeing eyes." Torbin motioned for Eldur to sit on a rough-hewn stone bench. "There are shadows within shadows here, crevices and folds in reality that even Valen cannot peer into. But we must be cautious. Stray too long or too far from this haven, and his gaze will find us." Eldur, still processing his sudden transition from the barren outer realm to this hidden enclave, asked, "Are there others here?" Torbin shook his head. "No. It has been ages since Valen allowed anyone to wander freely as long as you have. But know this, he will soon discover your absence, and he will be furious." "Good," Eldur replied, a smirk forming on his lips. "His anger may yet prove to be his undoing. Now let's talk about how I can leave this realm." Torbin's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "Escape is not a matter of simple walks through portals, Eldur. Valen's power here is absolute. Almost. There is one possibility, a legend really. It speaks of a core from which this realm draws its existence, a nexus of energy that Valen guards fervently. Control the nexus, and you might control the way out." Eldur leaned forward, his interest piqued. "And where is this nexus?" "In the very fortress you tried to storm," Torbin said with a wry smile. "It is the heart of the Shadow Realm, deeply guarded and ensconced within layers of traps and spells." Eldur's mind raced, piecing together a plan. "Then we must find a way to reach it. If Valen's attention is drawn to searching for me, perhaps we can use that distraction to our advantage." Torbin nodded, his expression serious. It will be dangerous, and we will need more than just cunning. We will need power. Power that might be gleaned from the very shadows we wish to escape. As they began to plot their next steps, the air in the cave seemed to thrum with potential, the shadows dancing more vigorously, as if sensing the brewing storm of rebellion against their master. Chapter 5. The Rescue from Shadows. Elder, his mind racing with the possibilities Torben had laid before him, considered the implications. Is there any way to release others from the shadows? He asked, a mix of determination and dread in his voice. Torben, the aged keeper of secrets, replied thoughtfully, I have never been able to, but someone like you, an elder who is part shadow, might merge with the memories preserved in the shadows. However, be warned, the moment you attempt this, Valen will surely sense the disturbance and be upon you swiftly. Eldur nodded, resolute despite the dangers. There is one I wish to free from the shadows, he confessed, his voice heavy with urgency. But how can we find the ones we seek when Valen controls the realm? He controls the shadows, not the memories within them, Torben corrected softly. Eldur spent hours discussing strategies and learning more about the Shadow Realm's intricacies from Torben. Finally, he prepared for his first rescue mission, stealthily exiting the hidden cave. You have exactly 3 minutes before he notices your absence, Torben whispered as Eldur blended into the realm's eerie landscape. Transforming into his shadow form, Eldur merged with the ethereal wisps, each one a fleeting memory of tales and fables. Are you there? He called into the void. Almost immediately, 2 enormous eyes appeared in the sky, Valen's gaze piercing through the darkness towards the disturbance. Are you there? Eldur called again, desperation edging his voice. A winged creature snapped at him from the shadows, and Eldur hastily retreated from the memory. Torben's voice echoed in his mind. It's too late. He'll see you. But then, Eldur spotted a familiar face within another shadow memory. It's a trap. He's luring you, Torben warned. Ignoring the danger, Eldur plunged back into the shadows, crying out, We can be free. Grab my hand. His shadowy arm stretched into the nothingness, the shadows swirling menacingly around him. Suddenly, a hand clasped his. With a forceful pull, he dragged the figure from the shadow memory into the physical world. Confused and dazed, Serana stood beside him, her eyes wide with shock. Wasting no time, Eldur pulled her along to the safety of the hidden cave, just as Valen appeared outside, his formidable presence scanning the area. They slipped inside just in time, the entrance concealing them once again from the Keeper's prying eyes. Inside the cave, Torben let out a relieved sigh. That was too close. Serana, coming out of her daze, looked up with recognition and a mix of emotions. Elder, she uttered, her voice a blend of relief and bewilderment. Eldur nodded at her, his expression serious but relieved. Welcome back, Serana. It's time we talk about how we can use this newfound freedom to our advantage. His eyes gleamed with the fires of rebellion, now fueled by his successful rescue, and the potential for more allies to be freed from their shadowy prison. Chapter 6. The Search for Winter. As the flickering light of the hidden cave cast long shadows on the walls, Eldur, Serana, and Torben continued their deep discussion into the murky hours of the Shadow Realm's night. Eldur leaned forward, his voice echoing with resolve. We need someone with the intellect to truly overcome our dilemma. Someone powerful enough to outwit this Valen. Torben shook his head, his old eyes weary yet sharp. Valen is all-powerful here. There is no creature, from past or future, no being powerful enough to match Valen's power in the Shadow Realm. Eldur, undeterred, speculated. If we could find the sage, maybe he could... His voice trailed off, pondering the possibilities. Serana interrupted, bringing a new angle to the conversation. What about winter? She suggested, her tone mixing curiosity with a hint of caution. Eldur turned to look at her, his eyes narrowing thoughtfully. I like the way you think, he acknowledged. Then he turned to Torben. Winter was not just any man. There was something unique about him. If we could find him and free him, perhaps he could be the key to defeating Valen. Torben, perplexed, rubbed his chin. Winter. I've never heard of such a creature or person, and I have seen them all. Are you sure he is part of the shadows here? Eldur responded. He was a man, yes, but he possessed abilities and a presence that went beyond the ordinary. If there's even a slight chance he's confined here, we need to explore it. Serana added, her voice tinged with realism. But of course, there's always the possibility that he defeats us too. If we release him from the shadows, are we prepared to face not just Valen, but possibly Winter if things don't go as planned? Eldur and Torben exchanged a look, the gravity of the situation settling upon the trio. We need to find him first, Eldur concluded. Torben, tell us about these shadows within shadows. How can we search them without drawing Valen's attention again? Torben began to explain, detailing the intricate layers of the shadow realm and the pockets of deeper darkness where even Valen's eyes might not reach. There are places, folds in the fabric of this realm, where even the Keeper might not see clearly. We can use these to search for Winter discreetly, he described, his voice low to avoid carrying through the coroner's space. Eldur nodded, absorbing every detail. Then we begin our search at first shadows fall tomorrow. Serana, you and I will explore these folds. Torben, you will stay here and keep watch. If Valen suspects anything, you'll be our warning. The plan set. The three of them settled down to rest, the weight of their upcoming mission pressing heavily upon their minds. As the shadows danced along the cave walls, the potential to change their fate, a sliver of hope in the darkness, seemed just within reach. Chapter 7. Shadows of Betrayal. Eldur and Serana, shrouded in their shadow forms, slipped silently from the hidden cave. The landscape was dotted with ghostly sentinels, Valen's minions, tasked with watching for any rebellion. Moving with stealth, they evaded these watchers, but it was Serana's curiosity that halted their cautious trek. At the edge of a particularly vivid shadow memory, a lively old town square frozen in time, Serana paused. Wait, she whispered, her eyes gleaming with a mixture of nostalgia and mischief. She stepped into the memory, immersing herself in the bustling scene of a bygone era. Eldur, intrigued, followed her. Inside, the townspeople went about their daily lives, oblivious to the predators now walking among them. Serana approached a man, her smile widening. With a swift grace, she bit into his neck, draining him of his life. It's good. She sighed contentedly, her face a picture of satisfaction. Eldur, not to be outdone, chose his own victim, reveling in the forgotten pleasure of feeding on a living soul. Panic ensued among the spectral townsfolk, their ephemeral forms scattering in terror. Back in the Shadow Realm, their brief indulgence had not gone unnoticed. As they emerged from the memory, they were met by a host of shadowy figures, Valen's enforcers, ready to capture them. However, something had changed. The elders felt surges of power coursing through their veins, a direct result of their feeding. Tired of evasion and bolstered by their newfound strength, Eldur decided it was time to confront their pursuers. Enough hiding, he declared, turning to face the Dark Agents. Together, Eldur and Serana unleashed their enhanced powers, battling the shadowy creatures with a ferocity that turned the tide in their favor. Defeated, the shadow agents dissipated into the ether, leaving Eldur and Serana to return triumphantly to their cave refuge. Torben, witnessing their return and the display of their power, was astounded. "I have never seen Valen's forces defeated before. How is this possible?" he asked, his voice a mix of fear and admiration. Serana, wiping the residual blood from her lips, shared a look with Eldur. "Feeding on those memories. It's enhanced our powers," she realized aloud. Eldur's eyes sparkled with a ruthless calculation. "Imagine what could happen if we fed on more potent creatures from these memories," he mused, considering the possibilities. Their conversation took a darker turn as they both glanced at Torben. Wait, I helped you," Torben pleaded, sensing their predatory shift. Serana's voice was cold, her decision final. "And you can still help us further." Her words were followed by Torben's scream, echoing through the Shadow Realm as the two elders fed on their one-time ally. Now empowered and unrestrained by any semblance of gratitude, Eldur and Serana faced a new dilemma: free the potent memories of the Shadow Realm to enlist their help, or consume them to steal their powers and challenge Valen directly. As they plotted their next move, the question loomed large. Would their thirst for power see them escape back to reality, or would it lead them into a deeper darkness? The shadows of the realm held their breath, waiting for the next move in the game of power and betrayal that was unfolding. Find out in the next episode of Crimson Dawn, The Shadow Realm. In a realm forged from shadows, the ultimate showdown begins. Witness the primal fury as werewolf hunts werewolf in a struggle for dominance. Meanwhile, the elders conspire, their ancient powers summoned to tilt the scales of fate. Ancient secrets, unthinkable alliances, and a battle that could unravel the very fabric of reality. Who will seize power in the epic saga of Crimson Dawn, The Shadow Realm? Stay tuned and dive into the darkness. Chapter 1: The Gathering Shadows. In the secluded darkness of their hidden cave, Eldur and Serana convened with 6 newly freed elders, each one a shadowy figure drawn from the forgotten depths of memory. The cave's walls, damp and echoing the faint whispers of the realm, formed a stark contrast to the strategic intensity inside. "We need more power, Eldur," Serana insisted, her voice a blend of urgency and calculation. "We must seek out the most formidable creatures trapped in memory. Their strength could be our key to overthrowing Valen." Eldur nodded, his eyes gleaming with a mix of resolve and ambition. "Agreed. But our priority is also to locate the Sage, or perhaps even Winter, though I suspect Winter might not be part of this forsaken realm." Serana paced, her form flickering slightly with impatience. "If Winter is here, he's hidden beyond even Valen's reach. For now, let's continue to bolster our ranks. The more elders we awaken, the stronger our force against Valen will become." Meanwhile, Valen, the keeper of the Shadow Realm, traversed the barren landscapes that he commanded. His steps were silent, but carried the weight of inevitability. Approaching a swirling vortex of shadows, he peered into a memory that held a fierce, primal werewolf, the Alpha, created for a singular purpose: to maintain the balance against the elders. Valen murmured as he gazed at the captive beast, its eyes burning with a wild, untamed ferocity. With a gesture of his hand, the boundaries of the memory dissolved, and the Alpha stepped forward, its presence formidable and imposing. "Awake, creature," Valen commanded, his voice resonating with power. "It is time to fulfill your destiny. Keep the elders in check as you were designed to do." As the Alpha shook off the remnants of its shadowy prison, its roar echoed through the realm, a sound that promised chaos and retribution. Back in their cave, Eldur and Serana sensed a shift in the air, a disturbance that spoke of a new, formidable challenge about to unfold. Eldur turned to the gathered elders, his expression grim yet determined. "Prepare yourselves. The true test of our resolve is upon us. Valen has made his move, and we must respond with all the cunning and strength at our disposal." Chapter 2. Echoes of the Past. As the Alpha tore across the desolate landscape of the Shadow Realm, its powerful limbs kicked up clouds of dust that lingered in the air like spectres of its tumultuous passage. Its instincts, primal and unyielding, urged it forward with a singular, destructive purpose: to annihilate the Elders. The air howled past, mirroring the fury in its heart and the relentless drive of its enormous paws against the barren ground. But as the miles stretched on, a shift occurred, a flicker of consciousness amid the wild impulses. The Alpha's relentless pace slowed, its fierce snarls quieting to heavy pants. Memories began to seep through the cracks of its primal armor, illuminating flashes of a past life. Images of a man with a chrome mask surfaced, a presence that had been both a leader and a protector, a father figure whose sacrifice had once altered the very fabric of reality. The Alpha stopped in its tracks, its massive head tilting towards the sky. A long, mournful howl broke from its throat, resonating across the Shadow Realm. This howl was laden with the weight of memory and loss, a lament for a past that was both cherished and heartbreaking. In this moment of poignant clarity, the Alpha's eyes focused with a new determination. It gazed at the distant fortress of Valen, a monolithic structure that stood as a bastion of control and oppression. A deep, instinctual knowledge took hold, the realization that Valen was the architect of its current plight and the source of the Shadow Realm's suffocating confines. The memories Winter had instilled in the Alpha, whether by design or deep-seated emotional connection, had ignited a spark of rebellion within the beast. With renewed purpose, the Alpha shifted its massive frame, no longer a mere instrument of destruction, guided by Valen's will. Now it sought redemption and freedom, not just for itself, but for the father figure who had given everything to save it. With a powerful grunt, the Alpha began its march towards Valen's fortress, each step a defiance against the fate that had been imposed upon it. Its path was no longer one of blind fury, but a deliberate stride towards confrontation, driven by a newfound resolve to overcome the Shadow Realm and its keeper. Chapter 3. The Watcher's Gaze. Valen stood atop a vantage point within the Shadow Realm, his eyes sweeping across the barren, echo-filled expanse with an omnipotent calm. He watched intently as Eldur and Serana, figures of shadow and deceit, liberated more of their kind from the memories held captive in the realm's fabric. His gaze then shifted to the Alpha, whose burgeoning defiance added a ripple to the otherwise still landscape. A sly smile crept across Valen's ageless face. "Like ants marching to their doom," he murmured to the emptiness around him. He found a certain amusement in their futile attempts at rebellion, knowing well the limits of their reach within his domain. "Let them have their fun, for now," he continued, his voice echoing like a whisper of the wind across the realm. "For centuries have I watched this place, and I will put them all back in their boxes when I have finished toying with them." Valen, born from a cosmic need, was not just a guardian, but a manifestation of the universe's demand for order. His existence was both eternal and essential, tasked with an unending vigil to ensure that none of the creatures of shadow overstepped the bounds set by reality itself. His power, vast and unchallenged within the confines of the Shadow Realm, was granted by the cosmos to maintain the delicate balance between the world of myths and the tangible reality that humans occupied. As he watched the Elders and the Alpha stir unrest, Vaylin reflected on his eternal purpose. Each entity within this realm was a potential threat to the outside world, and his role was to contain these threats indefinitely. He was the dam holding back a flood of ancient and chaotic forces that, if released, could unravel the fabric of reality. The power Vaylin wielded was not merely about suppression, it was a necessary force of stability. His existence ensured that the Shadow Realm remained a prison for those who could upend the natural order. As much as he was the keeper, he was also the last line of defense against the potential havoc that Eldur, Serana, and their ilk could wreak if they were to ever find their way back into the human world. This chapter of eternal vigilance was Vaylin's alone to write, and as he watched the unfolding drama, he knew that soon he would have to intervene to reassert his dominance. The thought did not burden him. It was simply his nature, as inevitable as the rise and set of the stars in the sky above. Chapter 4. Shadows within shadows. In the Shadow Realm, where reality blurred with the echoes of forgotten myths, an elder named Varys returned from a short reconnaissance mission with urgent news. His face was pale, marked by the weight of his discovery. "Eldur, we have found something," he panted, rushing towards Eldur, who was discussing strategies with Serana. "What is it? A gateway? A weapon?" Eldur pressed, his voice tinged with both hope and impatience. "No." Varys shook his head, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and excitement. "A strange version of a shadowy memory, only it's different. I looked inside, and I saw him. He looked right at me as if he knew who I was." "Who? The Sage, Winter?" Eldur's voice rose in anticipation. "Speak, damn you." "No, I am sure it was the one called Eldritch," Varys exclaimed. Serana's expression darkened at the mention of the name. "He is no friend of ours," she remarked coldly. Eldur nodded, his mind racing with the possibilities. "The enemy of our enemy," he mused aloud. "Eldritch is indeed formidable, and does possess the intellect to help us, if we can indeed get him on our side." "I will not go," Serana interrupted, her tone firm. "He almost killed me last time." "I will go," declared Eldur decisively. He followed Varys to the shadowy portal. Merging into his shadow form, Eldur entered the anomalous memory. As soon as he materialized, a voice greeted him, smooth and confident. "Welcome, Eldur. I have been expecting you." Eldur scanned his surroundings, finding Eldritch seated calmly, almost regally, in the midst of the shadowy echo. "Eldritch, the situation has changed," Eldur began, trying to convey the urgency of their plight. "I understand we've had our differences, but now is the time to come together for the greater good of the Elders." Eldritch raised an eyebrow, his gaze piercing. "Nothing you do is for the greater good, Eldur. It's always been for your own ambitions." "How are you able to remember, even when trapped within this shadow memory?" Eldur asked, curious despite himself. "Not all Elders are created equal," Eldritch replied with a slight smirk. "Here, I can exist without the burden of the outside world, without the worries of man's greed or the incessant need to take from others." Eldur pleaded, his voice earnest. "We need you, Eldritch. Vaylin is too powerful for us alone. We must stand together. I simply want to exist in reality, not this place. Maybe we could even find Winter here." Eldritch's expression darkened at the mention of Winter. "You must not. If he is even in this place, his return would spell doom for reality." "Then you will help us," Eldur pressed, sensing a shift in the conversation. "No." Eldritch's voice was firm, resolute. "I seek nothing but peace. Now leave, I grow weary of your presence." Eldor could feel Eldritch's anger and knew better than to press further. As he withdrew, his parting words hung in the air. "We, the Elders, your brothers, need you." The plea echoed in the shadows, unanswered, as Eldor retreated back to the uncertain safety of his own realm. Shadows of Alliance. Back in his hidden cave, Eldor discussed the recent encounter with Serana. "No, he is not one of us," Eldor concluded with a sigh, reflecting on Eldritch's refusal to join their cause. Serana smirked slightly. "Good. There's something odd about him. He never truly was one of us, even before all this." Meanwhile, in the barren expanses of the Shadow Realm, the Alpha set its sights on the fortress of Valen. As memories of the past flooded back, a simmering anger boiled up inside. The Alpha's eyes emitted a primal red glow as it began to charge toward the fortress, driven by a singular purpose. Suddenly, a commanding voice echoed through the realm. "Stop! You cannot win this one!" The Alpha halted, muscles tensed, ready to destroy anything or anyone who dared to obstruct its path. Standing before it was an old, frail-looking elder, Eldritch. "Remember me?" "We're on the same team out there, big guy," Eldritch said, trying to calm the raging beast. A flash of memory crossed the Alpha's mind. Images of Eldritch, Winter, and itself in combat together. Eldritch continued, "I know you seek to confront Valen, but he is beyond you, too powerful. And to what end? We cannot leave this place. To do so would undo everything he sacrificed for." Eldritch paused, his gaze piercing into the Alpha's fiery eyes. "I cannot say for sure, but I think he may be here, in one of these memories. Which one, though, I'm unsure. Why don't we look for him together?" The Alpha looked towards the fortress, its primal nature yearning to unleash its fury. Yet, it then glanced back at Eldritch, considering the memories of Winter and the possibility that he might still exist within the Shadow Realm. With a heavy snort, the Alpha turned away from the fortress, its decision made. "Good choice," Eldritch nodded approvingly. Together, they would search for Winter, hoping to find a way to harness his intellect and power once again. This newfound alliance between the primal force of the Alpha and the cunning mind of Eldritch marked a significant shift in the dynamics of the Shadow Realm, setting the stage for a deeper exploration of their entwined fates. Chapter 6. Quest for Power. Valen strolled through the echoing halls of his fortress, each step resonating with the absolute authority he wielded over the Shadow Realm. He approached a golden, glowing nexus of energy, the core of his power and the lifeline of the realm itself. As he gazed into the pulsating light, he muttered, "They must never find you." Within the swirling luminescence of the nexus, a brief image of a chrome mask flickered, hinting at secrets deeply buried. Meanwhile, Eldor emerged frustrated from yet another memory within the Shadow Realm. "This is getting us nowhere," he exclaimed, his voice echoing off the formless landscapes around him. "We need power, something to fight Valen with. We must start looking for more powerful beings." Serana, who had been quietly observing the endless shadows, suddenly spoke up. "Do you think the gods are here?" Her question hung in the air, a beacon of both hope and dread. Eldor paused, considering the possibility. If they are, surely their shadow memories would stand out like beacons in this dreary place. The idea seemed to ignite a spark of strategy in his eyes. "Send out a scout," he commanded. "Have them traverse this land for anomaly portals. We need an edge." At Eldor's behest, one of their newfound elder allies transformed into a shadow and slipped away, moving through the realm with a purpose. This elder was tasked with finding any anomalies that might indicate the presence of a god's shadow memory, a potential game-changer in their struggle against Valen's tyranny. Back in the fortress, Valen, unaware of the Elder's renewed efforts, continued to survey his domain, his mind wandering through the complexities of his creation and the beings he was sworn to confine. Each creature's essence, trapped within the realm, contributed to the balance he was charged with maintaining. Yet, the presence of Winter's image in the Nexus troubled him. It was a reminder of the thin line he walked between control and chaos. As the Elder Scout ventured further into the Shadow Realm, the landscape began to change subtly. The shadows seemed to pulse with a more intense darkness, and distant echoes of power resonated through the air. It was here that the Scout felt the air thicken, a sign that something monumental lay ahead. The stage was set for a discovery that could either doom them to eternal shadows or elevate them to challenge Valen's rule directly. Whatever lay ahead, Elder and his allies knew this was a turning point, one that could finally tip the scales in their shadowy war. Chapter 7. Confrontation of Alphas. The Alpha, with Eldritch by his side, tore across the Shadow Realm, their powerful strides echoing through the void. Their mission was clear: find Winter, potentially locked within a shadowy memory, before Valen could tighten his grip on the realm. Meanwhile, Valen patrolled the desolate expanses of his domain, his gaze drawn to a secluded, shadowy memory, well hidden in a remote corner of the realm. Speaking into the swirling darkness, he said, "It seems your offspring is causing me some trouble. I need you to put him back in his place." The image within the memory growled back, a formidable, primal werewolf, the true progenitor of Winter's Alpha, born of sheer ferocity and instinct, designed to dominate and destroy any opposition. "Time to put the family in its place," Valen commanded, his voice echoing with authority. "After all, there can be only one Alpha." The ancient werewolf roared into the sky, its call reverberating across the realm, a clear and terrifying declaration of impending dominance. Elsewhere, the Elder Scout, utilizing the speed of shadow, traversed the eerie landscapes of the Shadow Realm. After a relentless search, the Scout stumbled upon an anomalous part of the realm, darker, colder, and seemingly energy-draining. In the center stood a massive portal, a shadowy memory far larger and more ominous than any other encountered. Compelled by curiosity and duty, the Elder entered the portal, only to find himself in a nightmarish scene. Hordes of undead zombies roaming in unison, their soulless eyes void of any consciousness. Realizing the danger of this place, the Elder attempted to flee, but found himself ensnared by an unseen force. "Going somewhere," boomed the resonant voice of Necros, the god of the undead, filling the space with dread. The Elder, now trapped and facing the god responsible for the undead's creation, braced for a confrontation that might well determine his fate, and perhaps that of the entire Shadow Realm. Back with Elder and Serana in their hidden cave, they awaited the Scout's return, unaware of the Scout's perilous situation. They discussed their next moves, the atmosphere heavy with the urgency of their mission and the looming threat of Valen's ever-watchful presence. This chapter sets the stage for multiple showdowns between the true primal Alpha and Winter's Alpha, between the Elders and Valen, and between the Shadow Realm's denizens and their overseer, Valen. As tensions rise, the fate of the Shadow Realm hangs precariously in the balance. Final chapter. Echoes of Reality. In the quiet stillness of a small hospital designed for the care of Alzheimer's patients, a nurse made her rounds, tending to a woman named Mara. The room was softly lit, providing a calm atmosphere for those in the final stages of their conditions. As the nurse adjusted the blanket over Mara, she glanced at the monitor displaying Mara's vital signs. Unexpectedly, a blip appeared on the screen. It was subtle yet unmistakable, a slight surge in brain activity, like a faint whisper of consciousness returning from a deep slumber. The nurse paused, her eyes narrowing in mild surprise. Such fluctuations were uncommon, especially for a patient like Mara, whose condition had progressively worsened over time. Curious, the nurse checked the connections of the monitor and ensured everything was in order. She then observed Mara more closely, looking for any signs of awareness. Mara's expression remained unchanged, her features serene yet distant, but the monitor continued to show occasional spikes in activity, suggesting that deep within the recesses of her mind, something was stirring. As the nurse continued her observations, she couldn't help but feel a mix of hope and intrigue. What thoughts were navigating through Mara's mind? Were they remnants of past memories, or something more profound? The room felt charged with a subtle energy, as if Mara were on the brink of awakening from a long and profound dream. This scene closed the chapter on part 2 of Crimson Dawn, the Shadow Realm, leaving a thread of mystery. Was Mara somehow connected to the tumultuous events unfolding in the Shadow Realm? Could her increasing brain activity signify a deeper link to the otherworldly struggles of Eldur, Serana, and the others trapped in the realm of shadows? As the monitor continued to beep softly in the background, the story paused, promising that the echoes of the Shadow Realm were reaching into the very fabric of reality, hinting at revelations yet to come in the next season of Crimson Dawn. In a realm where shadows twist and ancient powers awaken, two alpha werewolves clash in a ferocious battle destined to shake the very foundation of their existence. As Eldur seeks allies in his dark quest, an old god stirs, unleashing legions of undead warriors. But when powers collide at Valen's fortress, who will command the Shadow Realm? Can ancient hatreds be buried, or will they doom all to eternal darkness? Join us to uncover the fate of the Shadow Realm. Chapter 1. As the Elder Scout's form dissolves into ash and shadow, the chilling power of Necros is fully awakened. The dark realm quivers under his newly revived presence, a stark reminder of his godly might. Amidst the eerie silence of the Shadow Realm, a sinister portal crackles to life. From its depths, a ghastly bony hand reaches out, clawing at the shadows as if to rip apart the very fabric of this realm. With a thunderous roar that shakes the foundations of the Shadow World, Necros emerges fully from the portal. Behind him, a horde of undead zombies spills forth, an endless stream of decay that floods into the Shadow Realm. Driven by his will, the ground where they tread turns black, life leaching out into the air, adding to the realm's despair. Necros towers over the land, his form a horrifying spectacle of dominance. As he strides forward, the realm itself seems to darken with his passage, and a cold wind carries his ominous decree.
So, the one called Valen thinks he can subdue a god.
His voice booms across the distances, a declaration of war against the keeper of the realm. With purpose in his every step, Necros begins his march towards Valen's fortress. The Shadow Realm that once contained whispers and echoes now trembles under the wrath of an awakened god, setting the stage for a confrontation of epic proportions. This chapter is painted with broad strokes of dread and anticipation, as the realm braces for the impending clash between two colossal powers. Chapter 2. Perched on a remote ridge, Eldritch and Winter's Alpha observe the ominous march of Necros and his legion of undead. The land itself withers under the undead god's touch, a sea of death advancing towards Valen's fortress. Eldritch muses quietly.
This could be to our advantage. Necros, mighty though he may be, is not sovereign here. His challenge might just weaken Valen enough for us to act.
But his words falter as a colossal blur of primal fury interrupts him. In a breathtaking display of power, the Alpha Prime, a massive werewolf even more formidable than Winter's Alpha, launches itself into the fray. Eldritch narrowly evades the attack by transforming into shadow. The Alpha Prime and Winter's Alpha engage in a ferocious duel, their growls and snarls echoing across the ridge. The Alpha Prime's eyes blaze a demonic red, its physical superiority clear. Caught between a desire to aid and a need to survive, Eldritch crafts a daring plan. He dives into the heart of Necros' advancing horde, disrupting the undead with his shadow magic. Necros, perceiving the disturbance, redirects his wrath towards Eldritch, who strategically leads the undead god and his legion towards the ongoing battle between the Alphas. As the Alpha Prime prepares to deliver a fatal blow to Winter's Alpha, the ground trembles under the weight of Necros' army. Distracted by the new threat, the Alpha Prime shifts its focus to the undead, its predatory instincts triggered by the mass of foes. Seizing the moment of distraction, Eldritch assists Winter's Alpha in making a narrow escape. The battle scene becomes a chaotic clash of primal rage, undead persistence, and shadowy manipulation. As Necros and the Alpha Prime collide, the landscape of the Shadow Realm echoes with the fury of unleashed powers, setting the stage for unforeseen alliances and betrayals in the heart of the darkness. Chapter 3. In the throes of battle, the Alpha Prime, a creature born from raw, hellish primal fury, lays waste to Necros' undead legions with terrifying ease. Each enemy felled fuels its ferocity, growing stronger and more formidable by the second. However, Necros, a god not easily thwarted, quickly tires of this interruption. With a mere gesture, a dark wave of his necromantic power washes over the Alpha Prime. The creature's life force is corrupted, turning it into an undead monstrosity, now a powerful general in Necros' army of decay. As Necros reassumes control and continues his relentless march towards Valen's fortress, the Alpha Prime, now undead, leads the vanguard, its eyes burning with a ghastly light, an unholy fusion of primal rage and necrotic decay, enhancing its already formidable prowess. Meanwhile, hidden away from the immediate chaos, Eldritch attends to Winter's Alpha. Despite his lack of experience with Lycan physiology, he does his best to tend the Alpha's grievous wounds.
I've never nursed a Lycan before,
Eldritch mutters, half to himself.
so this is all rather experimental, but I believe you'll pull through.
He applies what makeshift remedies he can, hoping they stem the bleeding and ease the pain. Back at Elder's hidden cave, a sense of urgency permeates the air as a scout bursts in with vital information. He breathlessly reports the sighting of Necros and his undead horde, now led by the transformed Alpha Prime, moving with purpose towards Valen's stronghold. A sly grin spreads across Eldor's face as he hears the news. The room falls silent, all eyes on him, anticipating his next words.
My friends,
Eldor begins, his voice low and conspiratorial.
this may be the diversion we've been waiting for. Necros and Valen, two titans clashing. It's the perfect opportunity for us to act. While they are preoccupied, we shall implement a plan to seize control over the nexus of this realm.
His gaze sweeps across those gathered, gauging their reactions to his bold strategy. As Elder outlines his cunning plan, the tension is palpable, the risks are immense, but so are the potential rewards. With strategic precision, Elder details each step, assigning roles and preparing his fellow elders for what could be the greatest heist of power in the history of the Shadow Realm. Chapter 4. Valen, the omnipotent keeper of the Shadow Realm, had been watching every twist and turn within his domain. As he observed Necros' release and subsequent rebellion, he remained unfazed, confident in his unrivaled control.
Necros believes himself a threat.
Valen mused aloud, his voice echoing across the ethereal landscape.
but he is no more dangerous to me than the smallest bug underfoot. Yet, this does present a splendid opportunity to remind everyone of the power I wield here.
He set out from his fortress, his form shifting and flowing like a dark cloud, moving to intercept the god of the undead. Meanwhile, back at Eldor's hideout, just as Eldor was gearing up to take advantage of the chaos, another Elder Scout burst into the scene, with news that could change their course.
I have found him.
The scout exclaimed.
I have found the sage.
Before Eldor could process this, the sage himself stepped into the cave, his presence commanding and serene.
The commotion has loosened the shadows that bound me. I have freed myself,
He declared. Eldor bowed respectfully.
Mighty sage, your wisdom is most timely. Our plight grows dire, and we are in need of your guidance.
Indeed, but first we should witness the clash between Valen and Necros.
The sage suggested, leading the group to a safe vantage point from where they could observe the impending showdown. As Valen confronted Necros, the realm seemed to hold its breath.
Halt, go no further.
Valen commanded with an air of absolute authority. In response, Necros unleashed a barrage of decaying energy and tendrils, commanding his undead legion to attack. With a mere wave of his hand, Valen effortlessly reversed Necros' assault, banishing him and his undead minions back into their shadowy confines. All but one, the Alpha Prime.
You had a job to do.
Valen spoke directly to the Alpha Prime, who now stood bewildered, yet still under the influence of Necros' dark power. With another gesture, Valen cleansed the Alpha Prime of its undead afflictions, restoring its primal essence. Proceed, he commanded, and the Alpha Prime, reinvigorated with its original purpose, sprinted off to locate Winter's Alpha. From their hidden viewpoint, Eldor and his companions watched in awe and fear. The display of Valen's power was beyond anything they had anticipated. Eldor, realizing the futility of their current strategies against such a formidable force, whispered urgently,
We stand no chance against him in direct confrontation. We must retreat and reconsider.
With haste, they retreated back to their sanctuary, their minds racing with the implications of Valen's overwhelming might and what it meant for their own plans of escape and resistance. Chapter 5. In the dim light of the cave, Eldor paced restlessly, his frustration evident.
Valen's power is unmatched. Facing him is a death wish.
He lamented. The sage, ever calm and introspective, responded,
Eldor, we were not meant to escape this shadow. Reality itself has placed us here, and it is here we should remain. Return to your shadow memory and accept our fate.
Serana scoffed at the sage's resignation.
And you are the wisest among us. Eldor has led us with courage and strength far greater than any shadowy counsel you offer.
She challenged. Eldor, caught between his reverence for the sage and Serana's fiery spirit, hesitated.
Serana, respect. This is the sage.
He started.
Yes, the sage who sides with humans and now condemns us to oblivion.
Serana interjected sharply.
Eldor, you are the rightful leader of the elders. Seize the power you deserve.
The sage looked deeply into Eldor's eyes, searching for a glimpse of the honor and loyalty he hoped still resided there.
Eldor, you could not do this. You are an elder of honor.
He pleaded, but before the sage could react further, Eldor's true intentions revealed themselves. In a flash of betrayal, he lunged at the sage, fangs bared, and clamped down on his neck. The sage struggled, his powers waning under the unexpected assault. Serana joined in, her laughter echoing through the cave as she too bit into the sage.
The best of us? Ha!
Serana taunted as she drained him of his power. The sage managed to break free momentarily, staggering back with a look of profound betrayal.
Eldor, why?
he gasped, clutching at his wounds. But the pair was relentless. They advanced again, overwhelming him with their combined strength.
We are the elders now, Sage.
Eldur declared, his voice cold with newfound resolve. As the sage fell to the cave floor, Eldur and Serana stood over him, their bodies absorbing the ancient wisdom and power of their former mentor. The cave grew silent, except for the eerie sound of power shifting hands.
The realm of shadows will have new rulers.
Eldur proclaimed, his eyes glinting with the dark promise of their ascent to power. Chapter 6. In the dim, flickering light of the cave, Eldur stood before his followers, his eyes burning with a fierce intelligence granted by the sage's power.
We must find Nocturna.
He declared, his voice echoing off the stone walls.
Velan may have banished Necros effortlessly, but we will not engage Nocturna in battle. We seek to usurp his power.
An elder, uncertain and fearful, raised a point.
But would Valen not simply banish our lord as he did Necros?
Fool.
Eldur snapped sharply, his newfound wisdom cutting through the hesitation.
I do not wish for Nocturna to fight Velan. I desire his power. With it, I can challenge the very fabric of this realm.
Serana, standing close to Eldur, her eyes reflecting the dark ambition shared between them, smiled wickedly.
I knew you were the true leader, Elder. The sage would have had us resign to an eternity of shadows. But you lead the elders to ascendancy.
Eldur's plan unfolded further as he spoke, with a cold, calculating calm.
Once I possess Nocturna's power, I will seek the strengths of the other gods. The sage's wisdom has shown me the path to defeating Velan. I will reshape reality itself, much like winter once did. But our new reality will bear the imprint of the elders, an eternal dominion shaped in my image.
Turning to his assembly, he commanded,
Dispatch all scouts. We must locate Nocturna without delay.
Meanwhile, Eldritch, having witnessed the overwhelming display of Valen's might against Necros and the resurrection of the Primal Alpha, knew they were in imminent danger.
He seeks us again,
Eldritch murmured, glancing at Winter's Alpha struggling to stand.
and he is too powerful. We must evade him.
Winter's Alpha, injured yet resilient, tried to muster its strength, its primal essence flickering within.
We are vulnerable here.
Eldritch stated grimly.
Let us retreat to my shadow memory. It is a place he cannot reach.
With a sense of urgency, Eldritch guided the weakened Alpha into the depths of his own shadow memory, a realm within a realm where they could hide from the relentless pursuit of the Primal Alpha. As they disappeared into the shadow, the faint hope of evading their pursuer gave them a momentary relief, shrouded in the uncertainty of their next move in the ever-unfolding drama of the Shadow Realm. Chapter 7. The Alpha Prime, infused with relentless primal rage and an unquenchable thirst for destruction, roamed the desolate landscape of the Shadow Realm. Its powerful howls echoed across the barren fields as it lost the scent of its intended prey. However, its acute senses soon detected another target, a shadowy figure darting through the realm. It was one of Eldur's scouts, on a mission to locate Nocturna. With ferocious speed, the Alpha Prime intercepted the Elder, materializing from shadow just in time to unleash its fury, tearing the Elder apart in a gruesome display of power. Unsatisfied and fueled by unyielding anger, the Alpha Prime continued its rampage across the shadowy expanse, hunting down anything that moved, its existence reduced to an agent of chaos and destruction. Meanwhile, deep within his fortress, Valen stood before the golden nexus of energy, the core of his power and the control center of the Shadow Realm. The nexus pulsed with a strange anomaly, a recurring vision of a chrome mask.
Why do I see this mask in my realm?
Valen murmured, his voice echoing in the vast chamber. For the first time in eons, the Eternal Keeper faced a puzzle that wasn't orchestrated by his will.
It's time I restored order,
he declared, his tone resolute, signaling a turning point in his dominion. Back in their hidden refuge, Eldur and Serana received their scouts with disappointing news. No sign of Nocturna's memory had been found. Eldur, now imbued with the sage's wisdom, pondered the situation.
He is here, but hidden behind a puzzle we are yet to solve,
he theorized. Serana, thoughtful and analytical, added,
The undead are visible to all, but elders and lycans have their constraints. Elders by night, lycans by the lunar cycle. Do we have such cycles here?
Eldur nodded.
Indeed, even in this eternal shadow, there are cycles of darker and lighter shades, akin to night and day, and the phases of the moon. Let us then calculate these cycles.
Eldur decided, turning to his gathered elders.
We will use this knowledge to our advantage and uncover Nocturna's hiding place at the opportune moment.
As they set about their calculations, the urgency of their mission was clear. With Valen poised to put them all back in their box and the threat of the Alpha Prime looming large, Eldur and his allies knew time was against them. The next phase of their plan would require precision, stealth, and an understanding of the Shadow Realm's unique laws, a task fraught with peril, but necessary for their survival and ultimate freedom. Chapter 8. As the Shadow Realm cycled into its version of night, a portal pulsated with an eerie energy, manifesting only under the cloak of darkness. Eldur, resolute and determined, stood before the gateway that only he could perceive.
I will undertake this alone,
he declared to Serana, his tone laced with the gravity of the moment. Serana, though apprehensive, nodded in support.
You will prevail,
she affirmed, though the uncertainty in her eyes betrayed her words. Eldur stepped into the portal, entering a desolate landscape devoid of life. Here, in a dominion shaped by vampiric essence, nothing survived. All was consumed. Nocturna, the vampire god, materialized with a swift elegance, his presence dominating the barren vista.
Ildur, your actions have roused me once more. You continue to serve me well,
Nocturna observed, his voice echoing ominously.
Yes, my lord,
Eldur responded with feigned subservience. He cleverly spun a tale of Valen's overwhelming might, how effortlessly the Keeper had subdued Nekros, planting seeds of doubt and fear in Nocturna's mind.
but I have devised a strategy that could amplify your power, enabling you to surpass Valan and liberate us all.
Eldur proposed, setting the stage for his ultimate deception. Intrigued and driven by the prospect of overcoming Valan, Nocturna consented to participate in a complex ritual that Eldur claimed would harness the realm's energies. However, at the critical juncture, Eldur, drawing upon the stolen wisdom of the sage, reversed the ritual's flow, siphoning Nocturna's power into himself instead. Nocturna, weakened to a mere shadow of his former self, crumbled to ash, his essence drained completely. Eldur, now imbued with the combined might of Nocturna and the sage, emerged from the portal, not just as an elder, but as something far more formidable, a being of immense power, his eyes alight with the forces he had commandeered. As Eldur stood among his fellow elders, his figure was not just that of their leader, but that of a deity among shadows. The elders gazed upon him with a mix of awe and fear, fully aware that the balance of power within the Shadow Realm had shifted dramatically.
Prepare yourselves. The time to confront Valan is near, and I shall reshape reality in our image.
As the chapter closes, the stage is set for a monumental clash. Part 3 of the Shadow Realm ends with Eldur ascending to godlike status, poised to challenge the Eternal Keeper, Vaylin, in a battle that could redefine the fabric of their shadowy existence. Chapter 1. Eldur, now immensely powered by his conquests, stands before the shadow portal of Necros, conferring with Serana on their strategy. Eldur, with a tone of calculated caution, addresses Serana. A direct assault on Necros does not guarantee victory. Our powers may be equal, and fighting on his terms could lead to my defeat. Serana, ever the strategist, suggests, perhaps we should seek Winter. He overcame all 3 gods, armed only with human ingenuity and technology. His approach could tilt the scales in our favor. Eldur shakes his head, the weight of his new powers swirling around him like a dark aura. Though I sense an echo of winter here, it's as if he's shrouded in a mist I cannot penetrate. No, we must draw Necros out, weaken him through another assault on Vaylin's fortress, and strike him when he's most vulnerable. As they plot, the air suddenly splits with the violent energy of the Alpha Prime. The beast, a monstrous werewolf, bursts from the shadows, its eyes burning with a hellish fury as it savagely attacks several elders nearby, killing them instantly. Serana recoils behind Eldur, her eyes wide with fear. Eldur's voice is steady, imbued with the formidable power he now wields. There was a time when you instilled fear in me, but that era is no more. Now you are merely a tool to be used. He extends his hand, his power enveloping the Alpha Prime. The beast halts, its wild eyes now glinting with a controlled ferocity. Go, Eldur commands, pointing towards the dark portal. Enter Necros' domain. Destroy all in your path. Your fury will be the catalyst for my victory. As the Alpha Prime disappears into the portal, its growls echoing through the twisted landscape of the Shadow Realm, Eldur turns to Serana. Prepare our forces. The final act of this shadow play is about to commence. Chapter 2. The chaos unleashed deep within Necros' shadow portal. The Alpha Prime, a beast of primal ferocity, controlled by Eldur, rampages through the dark, decayed world of the undead. This realm is a macabre landscape of death and darkness, where every corner shrouds a terror and the air is thick with the stench of decay. The Alpha Prime cuts a swathe through the shambling hordes, its powerful jaws and claws shredding the undead that rise to challenge it. As the Alpha Prime unleashes destruction, the disturbance rouses Necros from his restorative slumber. The god of the undead had been regaining strength after his previous defeat, but now he senses the turmoil within his domain. Furious and seeking the source of the intrusion, Necros' awakening is marked by the shadow portal cracking with dark energy. Sensing the escalating danger, Eldur commands the Alpha Prime through their psychic link. Return now. With a final devastating blow to the undead, the Alpha Prime leaps through the crumbling portal, disappearing into the Shadow Realm, leaving behind a trail of destruction. As Necros fully emerges from the portal, his eyes burn with wrath. He steps out into the Shadow Realm, his presence causing the very air to grow colder and the ground to tremble. The Dark God sets his sights on Vaylin's fortress once again, intent on confrontation and revenge. From a safe distance, Eldur watches the unfolding events with a calculated grin. He turns to Serana and the few elders with him, their faces illuminated by the eerie light of the Shadow Realm. Exactly as planned, Eldur declares with satisfaction. Necros, once again, plays into our hands. Now, while he is weakened and distracted, we will prepare our final move to seize control. Eldur's strategy unfolds flawlessly, setting the stage for a power struggle that could finally tip the balance of the Shadow Realm in his favor. Chapter 3. A pivotal moment in the complex dynamics of power within this ethereal domain. From his hidden vantage point, Eldritch, a seasoned observer of the Shadow Realm's intrigues, watches Eldur's strategic manipulations unfold. Despite recognizing the potential catastrophe Eldur's ambition could unleash, Eldritch feels a deep sense of powerlessness to intervene directly due to the immense forces at play. However, an idea sparks within him as he mutters to himself, "I cannot stop Eldur, but I know someone who might." As Nekros marches once again toward Valen's fortress, the air is thick with tension and the echoes of past confrontations. Eldur, concealed at a distance, watches intently, expecting to manipulate the outcome to his advantage once more. Valen, the eternal guardian of the Shadow Realm, steps forth from his fortress with a presence that commands the winds and the dark energies swirling around. "Stop!" Valen's voice booms across the realm, reaching every corner of the shadowy landscape. He addresses Nekros with a calm yet commanding tone. "You know of my infinite power here. I could return you to your shadow with but a mere thought. However, it is crucial for you to understand. It was not I who invaded your realm." Valen's gaze then shifts, pointing towards Eldur's location. The revelation shocks Eldur. His confident smile falters as he realizes his position is now exposed. Nekros, fueled by a new surge of rage and betrayal, turns sharply towards Eldur. With a horde of thousands of undead rallying behind him, stirred by their master's fury, they begin a relentless march towards Eldur. Eldur, caught off guard by the sudden turn of events, assesses his dwindling options. The scene closes with the undead army advancing, a dramatic shift in the power dynamics of the Shadow Realm, pushing Eldur into a corner he might not easily escape from. This chapter sets the stage for a climactic showdown, testing Eldur's cunning against the raw power of Nekros and the omnipotent will of Valen. Chapter 4. The air pulsates with the climax of the ongoing battle, as Eldur employs his strategic acumen against the formidable Nekros. Eldur, poised with determination, commands the Alpha Prime, "Fight for me!" He turns to Serana, instructing her to prepare a ritual essential for absorbing Nekros's powers once he is defeated. "Prepare everything. We must act swiftly once Nekros falls," he barks. The battle scene unfolds dramatically, showcasing the prowess of the Elders as they utilize their shadow manipulation to disintegrate Nekros's undead minions upon contact. The shadowy forms of the Elders swirl through the undead, causing destruction in their wake, illustrating the fierce clash between dark powers. In the heat of battle, Eldur signals the Alpha Prime to launch a direct assault on Nekros. The Alpha Prime, driven by Eldur's command, charges with ferocious intent, but is effortlessly swatted aside by Nekros, who prepares to obliterate the creature. Just as Nekros raises his hand to deliver the final blow, the Alpha of Winter, emerging from the smoke and dust of battle.
Heart is racing, feel the might, eyes that pierce into the night. Pack is moving, lead the way. Alpha's blood won't ever sway.
Slashes at Nekros, momentarily distracting him. This Alpha, embodying a primal force and a connection to its lineage, aims to protect what it perceives as its pack. Nekros, enraged by the unexpected resistance, prepares to unleash a devastating attack on both Alphas. However, before his power can strike, Valen intervenes with a commanding shout. "No, you will not harm him." He swiftly rescues the Alphas, disappearing from the battlefield, and leaving a stunned Nekros vulnerable. Seizing the moment of distraction, Eldur, channels all his accumulated power and fury into a single, decisive attack on Necros. As Necros crumbles under the force, Eldur exults over his impending victory. "Now, Serana," he commands, as Serana completes the ritual designed to siphon Necros' essence into Eldur. As Necros' essence drains away, he reaches out a bony hand in a futile attempt to stop the process, his voice echoing a desperate "No," before his form disintegrates into dust. Eldur, now crackling with the newly acquired power, feels a surge of cosmic awareness. "Yes," he exclaims, reveling in his increased strength, yet acknowledging it's not sufficient. "I can sense the cosmos, feel its essence, but I need more power to reshape it," he muses, hinting at a grander, more ambitious plan to reshape reality itself.
Watch out for Eldur. He's lurking in the dark. You can't trust Eldur. You feast upon your heart.
Chapter 5. The Shadow Realm unfolds with high stakes as Eldur, now empowered by the essences of defeated gods, continues his quest for dominion. With the Lycan god Lysanor in his sights, Eldur acknowledges the need for caution. "I have found him," he declares with resolve, yet admits the necessity of recuperating before his next confrontation. "Lysanor is the most powerful of the gods. Though I now wield the power of 2 gods, I must rest and recharge this essence to ensure victory." Meanwhile, the narrative shifts to the cold, austere interior of Valen's fortress, where the 2 alphas, weakened from battle, lie prostrate on the stone floor. Valen stands towering over them, his gaze fixed on the nexus of power that illuminates the fortress with its golden, godly energy. The nexus flickers, reflecting the image of a chrome mask, the mask of winter. Puzzled and contemplative, Valen murmurs to himself, "Why did I save you? There was an imperative within me, a necessity to protect you." At that moment, the quiet of the fortress is pierced by a familiar voice. "Hello, old friend." Valen turns to find Eldritch standing at the threshold. Eldritch, with a hint of recognition and curiosity, inquires, "Is that really you in there?" Valen, steadfast in his role, responds coldly, "I am Valen, the keeper of this realm. My sole purpose is to maintain the integrity of the Shadow Realm, ensuring reality remains untouched by its inhabitants." Eldritch, undeterred by Valen's dismissive demeanor, probes further about Mara, which sharply turns Valen's attention. With a swift motion that belies the tranquil setting, Valen instantly transports Eldritch, along with the 2 alphas, back into the depths of the Shadow Realm. The alphas, still reeling from their previous ordeal, find themselves alongside Eldritch, who now faces the monumental task of navigating this complex landscape fraught with power struggles and ancient enmities. The scene sets a tense anticipation for what lies ahead in their quest to understand the mysteries of the Shadow Realm and perhaps uncover the fate of Mara. Chapter 6. The Alpha Prime regaining consciousness. Its first sight is its son, the Alpha of Winter, and Eldritch standing beside him. The Alpha Prime's eyes ignite with a primal red rage as it bares its fangs and rises threateningly. Eldritch, recognizing the imminent danger, mutters apprehensively, Oh boy. However, the atmosphere shifts when the Alpha of Winter growls deeply, a sound that resonates with ancient and primal undertones. This growl serves as a profound communication between father and son, allowing the Alpha Prime to recognize the Alpha of Winter as its kin. Gradually, the Alpha Prime lowers its stance, accepting the Alpha of Winter as part of its pack. Eldritch, seizing the moment of calm, begins to strategize. Now let's figure this out, he asserts. Somehow, Winter is trapped in that fortress. He might be a prisoner, or in a strange twist of fate, he could be trapped inside Valen, or he might even be Valen himself. It's hard to determine from here. The discussion shifts to the urgency of the situation. We need to find out, Eldritch continues, because Winter is the only one who can now stop Eldur. He then turns to the two Alphas, a hint of admiration in his voice. And on a side note, I must say, I am in awe of you two. To witness two Alphas together, the primitive energy flowing between you, it's like observing the very force of nature. Unfortunately, the moment of awe is overshadowed by the looming threat posed by Eldur. Eldritch shares his concern. Unfortunately, I fear Eldur will seek out Lysanor next. If he gains the power of another god, it will be nearly impossible to stop him. This realization adds a layer of urgency to their mission, as they must act swiftly to unravel the mysteries surrounding Winter and prepare for the challenges ahead. The scene sets the stage for a confrontation of epic proportions, as the powers of nature and the ambitions of Eldur collide in the shadowy depths of the realm. Chapter 7. In the tranquil sanctuary of Lysanor's shadow portal. Unlike the other gods, Necros and Nocturna, who are entwined with themes of death and darkness, Lysana embodies a different kind of divinity, more akin to a force of nature than a deity associated with malevolence. This distinction not only sets Lysanor apart, but also imbues him with greater power, allowing his domain within the Shadow Realm to manifest lush, verdant fields that shimmer with life, even in the shadowy confines of the portal. Sensing the inevitable confrontation with Eldur, who seeks to usurp his power, Lysanor prepares to take proactive measures to protect his realm and its essence. Utilizing his unique abilities, Lysanor extends his influence beyond the boundaries of his shadow portal, reaching out to the two Alphas, Winter's Alpha and the Alpha Prime, who immediately respond to his call. Drawn by the force of Lysanor's natural authority, they swiftly make their way towards his hidden sanctuary. As the Alphas arrive at Lysanor's portal, they are greeted by the god's reassuring presence. My children, you have come. Lysanor addresses them, acknowledging the gravity of the impending threat. A great threat is upon us, but together we shall prevail. This sentiment reinforces the unity and strength that their combined forces could represent against Eldur's ambitions. Following closely behind, Eldritch enters the portal. His presence is initially unexpected, but is quickly recognized as an asset by Lysanor. Unexpected, but useful. An elder, and a powerful one at that. You are welcome here, Eldritch, Lysanor declares, embracing the strategic advantages that Eldritch's wisdom and experience might offer in the coming conflict. Together, this unlikely alliance of a god, an elder, and two primordial lichens strategize their defense against Eldur, who is now more powerful than ever, with the absorbed essences of Necros and Nocturna. Meanwhile, Eldur awakens from a deep, rejuvenating slumber that has further consolidated his newfound powers. Opening his eyes to see Serana by his side, he declares, with a resolute tone, "It is time. The time of elders is here." This chapter sets the stage for an epic confrontation, weaving themes of unity against corruption and the struggle between ancient powers and ambitious usurpers within the mystical and dangerous landscape of the Shadow Realm.
In the Shadow Realm we dwell lost, elders wrath the tempest tossed, vampire king seeks all to claim, darkness deepens black as flame. Eldritch rises, alpha strong, battle lines are drawn so long, where is winter hiding near, in the shadows trembling fear. Can you feel the darkness rising? In shadows there's no disguising. Elder's power grips so tight in the heart of blackest night. Through the mist illusions blur, whispers haunt, we're unsure. Will the Alpha stand the test in this realm of endless rest? Winter's shadow moves so still, waiting quiet, biding will. In the darkness secrets lie. Will we conquer or just die? Echoes of a fallen dream, nothing's ever as it seems. In the shadow realm we fight, through the endless night. Elder's power grips so tight in the heart of blackest night. Can you feel the darkness rising? In the shadows there's no disguising. Elder's power grips so tight in the heart of blackest night. Through the mist illusions blur, whispers haunt, we're undisguising. Elder's power grips so tight in the heart of blackest night. Through the mist illusions blur, whispers haunt, we're undisguising. Elder's power grips so tight in the heart of blackest night. Through the mist illusions blur, whispers haunt, we're unsure. Will the Alpha stand the test in this realm of endless rest? Winter's shadow moves so still, waiting quiet, biding will. In the darkness secrets lie. Will we conquer or just die? Echoes of a fallen dream, nothing's ever as it seems. In the shadow realm we fight, through the endless night. Endless night. Winter he came quiet, frost in his hand. Mirror took his fire in a changing land. Monsters fell like shadows underneath his might. Gods they whispered secrets, but Mara kept the light. In this frozen story, love is always warm. Winters fight for glory,
in a world far removed from the mystical battles of the Shadow Realm. Here, in a long-term care hospital specializing in dementia, life moves to the slow, predictable rhythm of routine medical oversight. Among the patients is Mara, a woman who has languished under the heavy fog of dementia for years, seemingly disconnected from the world around her. A nurse, deeply familiar with Mara's history, chats with a colleague, noting a peculiar change. "She's been here for years. No relatives ever visit," the nurse explains. "But a few weeks ago, she started showing signs of brain activity, quite unusual for her condition." Suddenly, the tranquility of the day is shattered when Mara awakens with a start, her voice piercing the usual hum of the hospital as she screams a name: "Simon!" The nurses, startled by the intensity of her outburst, rush to her aid, summoning the medical team for an urgent assessment. The doctors arrive swiftly, weaving through the corridors with practiced urgency. After a thorough examination, they are baffled to find Mara not only alert, but seemingly normal. The shadows of dementia that had clouded her mind mysteriously lifted. Mara speaks fervently of her husband, Simon Winter, a man whose existence cannot be verified in any records. Her consistent narrative about Simon's role in her miraculous recovery puzzles the medical team. Over the following months, Mara undergoes a battery of tests. Each one returns more puzzling than the last. There is no scientific explanation for her sudden reversal from dementia. Despite her insistence that her husband cured her, the lack of medical justification and her restored health lead to her discharge. Once released, Mara wastes no time. She travels directly to what was once her home, driven by a mix of hope and memory. Arriving at the familiar land, she is confronted with the reality that others now live where she once did. With a mixture of apprehension and necessity, she approaches the new occupants, explaining her past connection to the home. "I used to live here," she tells them, a hint of desperation in her voice. The current owners, perplexed by her story, yet moved by her evident emotion, agree to let her explore. Mara's steps lead her to a small building on the property, one she refers to as her childhood den. It was once the den of the Alpha, a place tied deeply to her memories of Simon and the life they shared before the world changed. As Mara walks through the den, each corner and shadow stirs memories of a past so intertwined with the extraordinary events of the Shadow Realm, yet so distant from the reality she now faces. The chapter closes as Mara stands in the den, the weight of her memories pressing around her, the mystery of Simon's existence and her cure hanging in the air like the dust motes dancing in the sunlight, streaming through the old windows. Mara settles into her rented apartment, the reality of her situation slowly sinking in. She opens her laptop and launches Google, her fingers hesitating slightly before she types in the words vampires, werewolves, and zombies. She sifts through pages of search results, all pointing to the same conclusion. These creatures are nothing more than myths and legends, confined to the pages of novels and the screens of cinema. No trace of a reality where werewolves conquered the world exists in any credible source. A sense of isolation creeps into her as she realizes just how different this world is from the one in her memories. Determined for answers, Mara decides her next stop must be the Graham family home, a name and place etched deep in her memories as significant. She arrives at the quaint, well-kept property and knocks on the door with a mix of hope and trepidation. A man answers, his appearance rugged and wary. "Excuse me, are you John Graham?" Mara asks, trying to keep her voice steady. "Why, yes, I am," he responds cautiously, his eyes narrowing slightly. "This is our land, and has been in our family for many years. Can I help you?" Mara takes a deep breath before asking, "Are you the Keepers?" John's expression hardens, his gaze becoming more intense as he evaluates her question. After a tense moment, he nods slowly. "Yes, our family is entrusted to keep the legacy from ever escaping." His voice is low, filled with a mix of pride and burden. "How do you know this?" John asks, his curiosity piqued yet still guarded. "I have seen him. I have met him," Mara replies, her words filled with a confidence that comes from her vivid memories. John looks confused and somewhat alarmed. His hand hovers near the door, ready to close it as he says, "I'll give you 3 seconds before I close this door." Mara, feeling the door of opportunity closing, quickly says one word, "Winter." John freezes, the colour draining from his face. He stares at Mara, reassessing her not as a threat, but possibly as someone with profound knowledge of his family's secret burden. "Come in," he says finally, stepping aside to allow her into the home. As Mara steps inside, the door closes behind her, sealing them in with the legacy of the Graham family and the mysterious ties to her past. The conversation that follows promises to unravel more about the hidden truths of this world, and perhaps the role Simon Winter played in it. John leads Mara through a dimly lit corridor of his old family home. The wooden steps creak under their weight as they descend into the cellar. A place that feels both sacred and secret. At the bottom, John approaches a heavy door, its old lock clicking loudly as he turns the key. He pushes the door open, and they step inside a dark room. John flicks on the light switch, and the room is bathed in a dull yellow light. Directly ahead, under a single beam of light, sits a glass case. Inside it rests an object that instantly draws Mara's gaze, the Mask of Winter. It's an ancient artifact, its surface aged, yet still reflecting light with an almost mystical quality. John begins to explain as Mara steps closer to the glass case, her eyes fixed on the mask. "We are the keepers of the mask, as our fathers were before us," he says with a solemn tone. "This mask has been passed down from father to son for as long as my family has existed." Intrigued and somewhat mesmerized, Mara leans closer to the glass. "May I?" she asks, gesturing towards the mask. John nods. "Go ahead, look into the mask." As Mara peers into the reflective chrome surface of the mask, her vision blurs for a moment before she sees vivid scenes unfold. She glimpses a supernatural world alive with vampires, werewolves, and the undead. Entities that are now merely the stuff of legends, yet they seem alive and moving within the depths of the mask. "How old is this mask?" Mara asks, her voice filled with awe. John replies, "It has been in my family for generations, passed down as a sacred duty to keep it from the outside world." The scene shifts to a flashback of a young John, a small boy at the time, standing in front of the same mask. His father, a stern yet wise man, kneels beside him and explains the importance of their duty. "The outside world must never know of this mask," he says, his voice echoing in the small cellar, "for within it lie creatures that, if released, could return to life." His father continues, "There is a prophecy that one day someone will come who speaks of winter. This person will have the power to end the mask's influence." Back in the present, Mara steps back from the mask, her mind racing with questions and possibilities. "So, the prophecy?" she starts to ask, turning to face John. "Yes," John interrupts, understanding her unspoken question. "Perhaps you are the one mentioned in the prophecy. Maybe you are here to end its power." He looks at Mara with a mixture of hope and fear, the weight of centuries resting on what happens next. with a palpable tension in the shadow realm. Eldur, brimming with the power of two gods, stands at the threshold of Lysanor's shadowy domain, his ambitions clear and his power at its zenith. Serana, ever supportive, nods in agreement with his plans, her eyes reflecting the fire of shared ambition. Soon, the reality itself will bow to the elders, Eldur proclaims, his voice echoing through the shadowy currents. Inside Lysanor's realm, the environment is starkly different. Vivid, painted with lush, eternal greens, a stark contrast to the barren shadows outside. Here, Lysanor confers with Eldritch and the two alphas, their expressions grave. The air is heavy with the scent of an impending storm, a battle that could reshape the very fabric of their existence. Lysanor, typically serene, now wears a look of concern. Eldur wields a power that could eclipse even the gods, he cautions. Should he succeed in taking my strength, he will possess the ability to alter reality at a whim. Eldritch, analytical and cautious, adds, an elder-dominated reality would mean the end of diversity, the silencing of countless voices. It's not just the non-elders who would suffer. Elder's vision leaves no room for dissent or difference, even among our own kind. Lysanor nods, his gaze distant. Winter once balanced such powers, drawn upon us all to shape a reality governed by more than raw dominance. Eldur lacks this vision. He then turns to Eldritch. Can you not locate Winter? He is the key. Eldritch frowns. He is intertwined with Valen somehow. Valen's existence is ancient, woven into the very fabric of this realm. Winter is here, yet not here, a paradox only he could navigate. As they strategize, a sudden shift in the wind announces Eldur's arrival. Standing at the gateway to Lysanor's realm, Eldur calls out, a challenge ringing clear in the still air. Lysanor, your resistance is futile. Surrender your power as you once did to Winter. Do not force my hand to destroy what beauty remains here. Lysanor steps forward, his form radiating a calm yet formidable power. Eldur, blinded by ambition, you fail to see that true power lies in harmony, not dominion. You will not find submission here, but a resistance forged in the very essence of life itself. The tension peaks as Eldur steps closer, his power palpable and threatening to unravel the peace of Lysanor's verdant sanctuary.
Watch out for Eldur. He's lurking in the dark. You can't trust Eldur. He'll feast upon your heart.
As the worlds within and beyond the Shadow Realm converging under the weight of impending changes, Mara, standing in the dusty cellar, holding the mask of Winter, gazes into its reflective surface, pleading for a sign from Simon. Her voice echoes through realms, unnoticed by all but the nexus of power within the Shadow Realm. Meanwhile, Valen, guardian of the Shadow Realm, stands before the swirling energies of the Nexus. As he observes the mask's reflection within the Nexus, he realizes the stakes have escalated beyond his control. It is time to end this, he declares, his voice echoing ominously through the void. As Valen manifests before Eldur, poised to halt the usurper's ascent, he finds his usual power unexpectedly muted. Stop, he commands, extending his hand in a gesture meant to banish Eldur to the fringes of the realm. Eldur, now infused with the essence of Lysanor, merely smirks, his confidence peaking. No, Valen, that will not work with me. It is too late. The scene cuts to a flashback where Lysanor, in a moment of foresight and sacrifice, willingly transfers his power to Eldur to spare Eldritch and the two alphas from the conflict. Protect the balance, Lysanor urges Eldur, his figure fading into the ether. leaving behind a legacy of power and a plea for wisdom. Back in the present, Valen, now facing an adversary as potent as himself, looks on with a mix of resignation and determination. Eldur, empowered beyond any single entity within the realm, addresses Valen with a cold resolve. Before I reshape this world, I wanted to show you, the Keeper, that your time has ended. This realm and reality will be under the Elder's rule. Eldur raises his hands, the air crackling with the combined forces of the gods he has absorbed. Valen, for the first time, shows a hint of doubt. You may wield the power of gods, Elder, but power alone does not grant you the right to govern reality, he states, preparing for a confrontation that could unravel the fabric of the Shadow Realm. As the two powers collide, the energies they unleash ripple through the realms, reaching even the quiet room where Mara stands with the mask of winter. Her plea, "Simon, are you in there?" hangs unanswered as the chapter closes on a world braced for the reshaping promised by Eldur's ambition. Eldritch stands before the golden nexus of power. He stares deeply into its glowing heart and sees the reflection of the mask of winter. Compelled by a force he can't explain, Eldritch reaches into the nexus, his hand enveloping the golden light, and grasps the mask. As he withdraws it, the mask vanishes from Mara's view in the real world, linking their fates across dimensions. Holding the mask of winter, Eldritch ponders his next move. The Alpha of Winter, driven by primal instinct and deep memories, approaches and gently takes the mask in its massive paw. Gazing into its reflective surface, the Alpha sees visions of Winter, the man who had once saved and raised him. Overwhelmed by emotion, the Alpha lets out a soul-stirring howl that resonates across the realms, its sound weaving through the fabric of reality itself. The Alpha Prime joins in, their combined howls causing the very essence of reality to tremble. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to Valen, now lying defeated at the hands of Eldur, who stands over him with a mocking sneer. "You, who would imprison us all, now will be imprisoned forever," Eldur declares, reveling in his apparent victory. But before he can deliver a final blow, Serana interrupts, sensing that the events have unfolded too smoothly, almost as if orchestrated. "Something is amiss," she cautions. "It's all too easy, too simple, as if guided by someone, by Winter." Eldur dismisses her concerns with a wave of his hand, convinced of his own invincibility. He gathers the combined powers of the three gods he has consumed and unleashes a cataclysmic blast of energy at Valen. The realm trembles under the force of the attack, and a blinding light fills the space. As the dust settles and the light dims, where Valen once lay defeated, now stands a man donned in a chrome mask, his glove glowing with absorbed energies. It's Winter, returned in full form, his strategic mind having played the long game from within the shadows. Serana, recognizing the figure and the twist of fate, screams in shock and disbelief. Winter, now standing where Valen once did, looks around at the assembled figures, his presence commanding and serene. "It seems," he begins, his voice calm yet carrying an undeniable authority, "that some lessons must be learned anew, setting the stage for a confrontation that could reshape not just the Shadow Realm, but reality itself. With a dramatic confrontation in the Shadow Realm, Winter, donning his chrome mask and now wielding all the power Eldur had collected, addresses Eldur with a calm that belies the tension in the air. "Thank you, Eldur. It took you longer than I expected, but thank you nonetheless," he says, his voice tinged with a hint of irony. Eldur, his face contorting with rage and disbelief, lashes out, "I will end you." Winter, unmoved, responds with a mocking question. "With what, Eldur? You've just handed me all your power. It's now in my hands." Serana, witnessing the turn of events and realizing the truth in Winter's words, disappears into the shadows, leaving a faint echo of her betrayal. Elder, frantic, attempts to summon the godly powers he had usurped, but finds himself drained, his efforts fruitless. Winter explains, "You used it all up, Elder. You'll need to rest and recharge if you wish to regain such power. But I have a couple of friends who'd like to have a word with you first." Turning slightly, Winter gestures to the two alphas, standing imposingly behind Elder. Elder, now truly realizing his vulnerable position, cries out in despair, "No, this cannot be. I won. I had the power." Winter, with a solemn nod, acknowledges Elder's ambition. "Yes, you did have it, but instead of wielding it wisely, you sought to corrupt it, to dominate and punish others. You wanted to show how powerful you are. Indeed, Elder, you are powerful, the most powerful among all supernaturals, even surpassing the gods. No other could have achieved what you did, and for that, I am grateful." Winter then raises his gloved hand towards the sky, and with a gesture of finality, releases 3 distinct beams of energy. Each beam seeks out and restores the gods to their former states. The energies that Elder had stolen begin to vanish, drawn back to their rightful owners. As the gods regain their powers, the balance in the Shadow Realm begins to shift back to its original state. The scene closes with Winter looking on as Elder comes to terms with his defeat. The Alphas, now free from any manipulations, join Winter, acknowledging his role not just as a savior, but as a guardian who has restored order at a critical moment. The chapter sets the stage for the resolution of long-standing conflicts and the potential for a new order in the Shadow Realm, guided by wisdom and respect for the natural powers that govern it. In a moment of reunion and tension between Winter and the Alpha, he raised from a cub. As Winter greets his old friend with a familiar, "Hello, old friend," the Alpha responds, not with words, but with action, charging at Winter and playfully wrestling him to the ground. Winter's laughter rings out, echoing a sense of relief and joy at their reunion. However, the Alpha's demeanor shifts as he pulls away, a growl of remembrance escaping him. He remembers the roles they played in reality, the decisions Winter made that affected so many lives. Winter, sensing the change in mood, tries to lighten the moment. Oh, come on, it had to be done. He proceeds to explain the necessity of his actions. The only way to break the cycle of endless conflict was to remove himself, the catalyst. Despite understanding, the Alpha's response is a sharp push, knocking Winter to the ground. "Okay, I deserve that," Winter concedes with a chuckle. In a gesture of reconciliation and love, the Alpha brushes up against Winter, reaffirming their bond. Following this, the Alpha Prime approaches. Its eyes, wild and red, soften as it too brushes against Winter in gratitude, recognizing his role in their liberation. The atmosphere shifts as Eldritch steps forward, his tone a mix of curiosity and respect. "So, this was all one of your plans then?" Winter's response is light, yet enigmatic. "You know a magician never reveals his tricks." Eldritch nods, acknowledging the depth of Winter's strategy, yet wondering about the future. "So now what?" Winter, looking towards the horizon, shares his next goal. With Elder now confined, it's time to go home to Mara. Eldritch, puzzled by the logistics, inquires, "How?" Winter's reply hints at further depths of his strategic foresight, yet to be revealed, teasing the continuation of their adventures in Shadow Realm Part 6. The scene closes with Winter gazing out over the realm, his mind already weaving the path that would lead him back to Mara without restarting the cycle of chaos, hinting at yet another intricate plan yet to unfold in the upcoming installment of Crimson Dawn, The Shadow Realm, Episode 6. Confronting reality, Winter stood before the glowing nexus, the golden energy crackling with immense power. Eldritch stood beside him, his face etched with curiosity and concern. "So what's next?" Eldritch asked, his voice echoing in the vast emptiness of the Shadow Realm. Winter's eyes remained fixed on the nexus. "This has all been part of a greater plan," he began. "From reshaping reality, dying at the hands of the Alpha, to escaping from being trapped in the form of Valen, every step was necessary." Eldritch nodded, urging Winter to continue. "Reality has a cycle, an unyielding force that maintains balance. When I reshaped reality, I became an anomaly. My presence continuously threatened to disrupt the cycle. That's why I had to execute the plan to have the Alpha end me, to temporarily reset the balance." "But why can't you just return now?" Eldritch inquired. Winter sighed. "Because reality will not allow me to simply show up again. It would continue the cycle of chaos and imbalance. The only way for me to step back into reality and join Mara is to confront reality itself, to convince it that my presence will end the cycle rather than perpetuate it." Eldritch frowned. "And how do you plan to do that?" "We need to plan meticulously," Winter explained. "Confronting reality is no small feat. It requires not just power, but also understanding and persuasion. We must show reality that the cycle of destruction and rebirth can end with my return, that a new balance can be achieved." As Winter and Eldritch delved into the complexities of facing reality itself, another scene unfolded within the Shadow Realm. Eldur sat alone in a shadowy prison, a realm that had confined him for eternity, or at least until reality allowed Winter to reunite with Mara in the real world. The darkness around him was suffocating, a constant reminder of his failures. Memories of his past haunted him. He recalled the night his family was killed when he was just a boy, the faces of his close friends lost in countless battles, the agonizing pain of losing his wife and child during childbirth. Every loss, every failure had shaped him into the being he was now. Now in the Shadow Realm and within the saga of Crimson Dawn, Eldur had faced his greatest defeat. All his ambitions, his power, had led him to this prison of shadows. All he wanted now was release, an end to the torment. Back at the Nexus, Winter placed a hand on Eldritch's shoulder. "This is the final phase, old friend. We must prepare to face reality and prove that the cycle can end." Eldritch nodded, determination and resolve etched on his face. "Let's make it happen, Winter. For Mara, for all of us." As they turned back to the Nexus, the path ahead was uncertain, but their resolve was unwavering. The journey to confront reality and break the cycle had begun. Winter gazed deep into the Nexus, the swirling golden energy reflecting in his eyes. He turned to Eldritch, his voice heavy with the gravity of their mission. "If this fails, you will be stuck here, along with everyone else, for eternity," Winter said. "If I should fail, look out for the Alpha for me. And Eldur, he's a power-hungry, scheming parasite, but none of this would have been possible without him. He has a deep power none of you see, possibly more powerful than you, Eldritch." Eldritch nodded, absorbing the weight of Winter's words. With a final glance at his old friend, Winter stepped into the Nexus. The golden energy consumed him, and he was propelled through a vast, glowing universe, twisting and turning through what seemed like an infinite amount of time. With a sudden crash, Winter landed on the ground, the impact jarring him back to his senses. He looked around and found himself in a strange world, a jungle teeming with unfamiliar sounds. Birds chirped in melodies he had never heard, and strange creatures moved through the dense foliage. From a golden light stepped another Winter, identical in appearance. Except for the mask he wore, Winter stared at his doppelganger, understanding who stood before him. "What should I call you, Reality?" Winter asked. "That will suffice," Reality replied, his voice echoing with a surreal resonance. "You cannot return," Reality continued. "To do so will spell doom on a perpetual cycle. You are an anomaly that will always alter reality itself." Winter took a deep breath, preparing to make his case. "It does not have to be this way," he began. "I seek a simple life with Mara, free from the cycle of resets. The only reason reality was put on the path of an infinite cycle was due to the supernatural gaining too much power. A world can exist where this does not happen. In fact, a world must exist where this does not happen, and the only one capable of ensuring this is me." Reality listened, its expression inscrutable behind the mask. Winter continued, explaining how he could maintain the balance and prevent the supernatural from overpowering the natural world. He spoke of his desire to live peacefully, to safeguard reality from the chaos that had plagued it. After a long silence, Reality spoke. "Your words carry weight, Winter, but words alone are not enough. To prove your intentions and capability, you must first pass a test." Winter nodded, his resolve unwavering. "What is the test?" he asked. "You will face a challenge that embodies the very essence of reality's balance," Reality replied. "Succeed, and you will be allowed to return. Fail, and you will remain here, an anomaly forever confined." Winter steeled himself, ready to face whatever challenge lay ahead. The fate of his existence and the balance of reality itself hung in the balance. The test would determine whether he could truly break the cycle and return to the life he longed for with Mara. The test unveiled. Reality stood before Winter, the golden nexus pulsing with energy behind him. "Your test is simple in its complexity," Reality began. "You must conquer this realm. It is a place without technology. The people here are simple tribes with simple ways. They do not possess magic, firepower, or technology. The animals are vicious and hungry. Your test is to conquer and rule this place using nothing but your mind. There is no way to build your gadgets here." Winter's eyes scanned the dense jungle around him. He could hear the distant roars of unknown beasts and the rustle of leaves as something large moved just out of sight. "The tribes will want to kill you. The animals will want to eat you," Reality continued. "All you have is your mind against ferocity and instinct. Should you prevail, which is unlikely, you will have proven you can survive in a world without the temptation to interrupt reality or interfere with the supernatural order unless needed." Winter nodded, the weight of the challenge settling in. "I understand," he said. "I accept the test." Reality's form began to shimmer and fade. "Time here, as in the Shadow Realm, is meaningless," Reality said. 100 years here is a mere second in reality. Use your time wisely, Winter." With that, Reality vanished, leaving Winter alone in the heart of the jungle. As Reality disappeared, it stripped Winter of his mask and clothing, ensuring Winter would have to start with nothing. The sounds of the wild grew louder, more menacing, as if the very environment sensed the presence of a newcomer. Winter took a deep breath, his mind racing. He had survived countless battles, outwitted gods, and navigated through the intricacies of the supernatural, but now he faced a new kind of challenge, one that would test his intellect, patience, and survival instincts to their limits. His first task was to find shelter. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the jungle floor. Winter moved cautiously, his senses heightened. He spotted a rocky outcrop in the distance, a potential refuge from the dangers of the night. He made his way towards it, his eyes and ears alert for any signs of movement. As he reached the outcrop, Winter found a small cave, barely large enough to stand in. It would have to do for now. He gathered leaves and branches, creating a makeshift bed. The cave provided some protection, but he knew it was only a temporary solution. That night, as he lay in the dark, the sounds of the jungle closing in around him, Winter's mind worked tirelessly. He needed to understand this world, its people, and its creatures. He needed to find a way to survive and eventually conquer. The test had begun, and Winter was determined to succeed. Morning came, with the calls of unfamiliar birds and the rustling of leaves. Winter emerged from the cave, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. His journey to conquer this realm would be long and arduous, but he was resolved to see it through. With each step, he moved deeper into the jungle, his mind sharp, his will unyielding. The tribes and beasts of this land had yet to meet Winter, the man who had outwitted gods. And Winter, with nothing but his mind and his determination, was ready to face them all. The jungle's challenge. Winter woke with the first light of dawn, his mind already racing with plans. He needed weapons. More importantly, he needed to understand this world better. His first task was to create a makeshift spear. He found a sturdy branch and used a sharp stone to whittle one end into a point. Testing its balance, he felt a small sense of satisfaction, his first step towards survival. Next, he needed more than just a spear. He needed firepower, or at least something close to it. He thought back to his knowledge of basic chemistry, recalling the ingredients required to make a crude type of gunpowder: charcoal, sulfur, and saltpeter. Charcoal was easy enough. Burnt wood. Sulfur, he hoped, might be found near any volcanic activity or hot springs. Saltpeter he could potentially find in Batguano or certain types of soil. As he scoured the jungle for these materials, his senses remained alert. The jungle was alive with dangers he couldn't see. Suddenly, a rustling in the underbrush caught his attention. He turned, spear at the ready, but nothing could have prepared him for the creature that emerged. It was a hybrid of a wolf and a big cat, a melding of two apex predators, muscular, sleek, and radiating danger. The creature lunged, and Winter barely had time to dodge. The battle was fierce. The creature was faster and stronger, but Winter had his wits. He used the terrain to his advantage, darting behind trees, using his spear to keep the beast at bay. Finally, with a calculated move, he lured the creature into a trap, forcing it to leap towards him. As it did, Winter thrust his spear with all his might, piercing its heart. Panting and covered in sweat, Winter looked at the fallen beast. It was a magnificent creature, but he had no time for sentimentality. He skinned the creature, using its pelt to create a cloak and hood. The animal's fur would provide warmth and camouflage. Draping the cloak around his shoulders, he felt a grim satisfaction. He was beginning to adapt. Now to find the people of this place, Winter muttered to himself, adjusting the hood. I know not if they even speak a language. But first, I need to find the final ingredients to finish the gunpowder compound. With renewed determination, Winter continued his search. He found a patch of ground that seemed rich in Batguano, perfect for saltpeter. He collected the substance, storing it in a makeshift pouch. Further on, he discovered a hot spring with sulfur deposits around its edges. Gathering the yellow crystals, he added them to his collection. Back at his makeshift camp, Winter set to work. Using a flat stone, he ground the charcoal, sulfur, and saltpeter together, careful to maintain the right proportions. The process was painstaking, but finally, he had a small amount of crude gunpowder. Testing it, he packed a tiny amount into a hollowed-out piece of wood, creating a rudimentary explosive. He lit a makeshift fuse and backed away. A moment later, the device exploded with a satisfying bang. Winter smiled grimly. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Armed with his spear, his cloak, and now his makeshift explosives, he felt more prepared to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Standing at the edge of the jungle, he gazed into the distance. Somewhere out there were the people of this land. He would find them, learn their ways, and eventually he would conquer this realm. For Mara, for his friends, and for the reality he hoped to return to. Winter was ready to face whatever came next. Months had passed since Winter first arrived in this strange land. He had explored vast regions, mapped huge parts of the territory, and catalogued numerous strange creatures. Every day was a new challenge, but it was a challenge he relished. He had gathered resources and even set up a more permanent hideout, complete with rudimentary defenses and a small stockpile of his crude explosives. One day, while scouting a new area, Winter discovered a tribe of people. These were not ordinary people, but an ancient hunter-gatherer species. Fascinated, Winter did not approach them immediately. Instead, he chose to observe them from a distance. Camouflaged from view, he watched their daily routines, their hunting techniques, and their social structure. One particular evening, Winter noticed the tribe gathering for some kind of ritual. They bound a man and placed him into a cage. Curious, Winter continued to watch. As the sun set and the full moon rose high in the sky, the man in the cage began to contort and cry out in agony. Winter's eyes widened in shock and realization. The man was transforming, shifting into the form of a werewolf. "Oh, great," Winter muttered to himself. "I am helpless against a lichen." He knew he needed a weapon that could counter such a creature. He remembered the volcanic area he had explored earlier, where he had gathered materials for his gunpowder. Silver could sometimes be found near volcanic regions, often in the form of argentite or native silver. Winter thought about the process required to turn raw silver ore into a usable form. He would need to locate argentite, a silver sulfide mineral. Once found, he would need to smelt it to extract the silver. The process involved heating the ore to high temperatures to separate the silver from sulfur and other impurities. Determined, Winter returned to the volcanic area. He spent days meticulously searching for argentite. When he finally found a small vein of the precious ore, he carefully extracted it and carried it back to his hideout. There, he constructed a makeshift smelting furnace, using stones and clay. Using charcoal from his previous expeditions, he created a hot enough fire to smelt the ore. After several long and exhausting attempts, Winter succeeded in extracting small amounts of silver. He fashioned the silver into crude arrowheads and spear tips, knowing they would be his best defense against a werewolf. As he worked, Winter couldn't help but smile. Despite the dangers, he found himself enjoying the challenge. The process of problem solving and adapting to this new world was invigorating. Another thought crossed Winter's mind. If there are lichen, he mused, maybe there are elders too. I should prepare for everything. With that in mind, Winter continued to forge silver weapons, preparing himself for whatever this land might throw at him. He knew the test set by reality was far from over, but he was ready to face it, head on. Winter's planning was meticulous. He left nothing to chance, considering every possible detail. One critical aspect he recognized was his defenselessness against elders. There was no way to recreate his UV and infrared light defenses in this primitive world. He needed a different strategy. He concluded that his best move on the board would be to control the lichen and understand the people of the tribe. With this in mind, Winter set out for the village. He walked into the small tribal settlement, brazen and uncaring, a calculated risk. The tribal people watched him with wary eyes as he strolled past them. The language was unknown to Winter, but his mind worked like a supercomputer, analyzing the sounds and identifying them with familiar sayings and objects. His extreme level of cognitive function allowed him to decipher their language with astonishing speed. By the time he reached the center of the village, Winter had deciphered several common words. Each sound from the natives gave him more of the vocabulary he needed. "I come as a friend," he said, his pronunciation rough but understandable. At that moment, several tribal warriors ran towards Winter, spears in hand. Winter needed their full attention. He rubbed together a newly made glove and a flint-type bracelet on his other arm, lighting a small device. A small rocket shot up into the sky from his glove, then exploded with a deafening bang. He lit a second fuse, and a firework shot from his glove into the air, bursting into a brilliant display. The tribal warriors stopped, shocked. They had never seen anything like this before. "I am a friend," Winter repeated. "I am here to help." The chief emerged from his hut, adorned in elaborate tribal attire. Winter instantly recognized the chief's status and bowed before him, showing respect. His mind continued analyzing the language, piecing together phrases and sentences. He spoke to the chief, explaining he was a friend and wanted to help their village. The chief listened intently, his expression unreadable. He spoke a few words to his warriors, who lowered their spears but remained cautious. Winter continued, "I want to understand your ways and offer my help in return." The chief nodded slowly, his eyes studying Winter. He responded in their language, "Why should we trust you, stranger?" Winter replied, "Because I have faced many dangers and come with knowledge and skills that can aid your people. I seek no harm, only understanding and cooperation." The chief considered this, then gestured for Winter to follow him. They walked to a large hut where the elders of the tribe gathered. Winter's mind raced, absorbing every word and gesture. He needed to gain their trust and find a way to control the Lycan. This was his only chance to survive and succeed in this world. Inside the hut, the chief introduced Winter to the elders, and the real negotiation began. Winter knew this was just the beginning, but he felt a spark of hope. He had made contact, and now he needed to prove himself. The survival of both his mission and himself depended on it. Winter sat and spoke with the leaders of the tribe, explaining that he was a traveler from a faraway land seeking out elders, or vampires, that he must slay. The tribal leaders looked at him with mistrusting eyes. Anticipating their response, Winter said, "These vampires hurt my family and people. I am here to slay them." He took another gamble, saying, "I also am the father of the Wolfman, the Lycan. I understand them, and in my land, the Lycans are our friends and allies." A young warrior rose up angrily, saying, "I do not trust this one. He wishes to hurt my brother, not help him." Winter replied, "I understand your mistrust, but what if I spoke the truth? What if I could truly help your brother? Would it not be right for a brother to do everything he can for his blood? My name is Winter. I possess the power to take from you anything I wish. You would not be able to stop me. Why then do I speak of friendship when a lie serves no purpose?" One of the tribe leaders, named Tarek, spoke up. "We are the tribe of the Moon's Embrace. We have been at war with the tribe of the Night's Shadow, who are aided by the ones you call elders. They use them to attack our people. We are defenseless until the full moon, when our brothers are both a curse and a savior." Winter's mind calculated every possible scenario. He realized that he would not be able to defeat the elders alone, and if he defeated the Lycan, there would be nothing to stop the elders. He needed to conquer these people, not defeat them, and he needed to find a way to unite them against a common enemy. The Lycan and elders working together seemed impossible, but Winter's strategic mind sought the best move on the board. "Take me to see your brother who is cursed," Winter said. The leaders hesitated, but Tarek nodded, signaling to the others. They led Winter through the village to a reinforced hut at the edge of the settlement. Inside, a man was chained to the wall, his eyes glowing with a wild, feral intensity. His body was muscular and covered in scars, a testament to his battles against the transformation. "This is my brother, Arik," Tarek said. "He becomes the Wolfman every full moon. He has saved us many times, but we fear him as much as we rely on him." Winter approached Arik cautiously. "Arik, I am Winter. I understand your pain and your power. I am here to help you control your curse, to turn it into a blessing for your people." Arik growled, his eyes narrowing. "Why should I trust you?" "Because I have faced the same struggles. In my land, Lycans are our friends and allies. We have learned to control the curse and use it for good. I can teach you the same." Arik's expression softened slightly. "And what do you want in return?" "I seek to destroy the elders who threaten your people. If you help me, we can defeat them together. You can be a hero to your tribe, not a curse." Arik looked at Tarek, who nodded slowly. "If you can truly help my brother, you will have our support." Winter smiled. "Then let us begin. Show me the way to the tribe of the Night's Shadow, and together we will end this war and free your people from their curse." The leaders of the tribe of the Moon's Embrace exchanged glances, hope flickering in their eyes for the first time in many moons. They led Winter out of the hut, their hearts filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. Winter knew the path ahead would be fraught with danger, but he was ready. The pieces were falling into place, and he was determined to see his plan through to the end. Winter spoke to Arik. "Arik, in my land, if a Lycan bites a man, that man becomes a Lycan. Is this true here?" Arik nodded. "Yes, it is true." "Excellent," said Winter. "The moon is full in just a few days. This will be when we initiate our plan. For now, let us build a defense against the elders." Using his knowledge of elders and their weaknesses, Winter guided the tribe to build traps that would set off small fireworks if a trespasser came that way. They also built fires around the perimeter, with a guard at each one holding a concoction Winter had devised. When thrown into the fire, this mixture would burn so bright that no shadows could exist. Winter explained the best ways to hurt the elders and how they could be driven back. With this, the tribe of the Moon's Embrace and Winter lay in wait for any attack from the elders of the opposing tribe. The night was tense, with the tribe members on high alert. The full moon was just days away, and they knew an attack could come at any moment. As the moon rose higher, two elders emerged from the shadows, silently approaching the camp. Their eyes glowed with an unholy light as they moved closer, confident in their superiority. But as they approached, they set off one of Winter's firework alarms. The sudden explosion of light and sound caught them off guard, and they hesitated. "Now!" Winter shouted. The guards around the perimeter threw the concoction into the fires. The bright burning light flared up, illuminating the entire area with a searing brightness that left no room for shadows. The elders screamed in pain, their forms flickering as the light burned them. The warriors, armed with long spear-like objects tipped with silver, thrust at the elders' hearts. The elders, caught off guard and in agony from the light, were unable to defend themselves. The silver-tipped spears found their marks, and the elders screeched in pain, quickly retreating into the darkness from whence they came. This was a defeat they had never known at the hands of humans before. As the elders retreated, the tribe of the Moon's Embrace celebrated. The village erupted in cheers and chants, hailing Winter as a savior. They had never believed it possible to drive back the elders, but now, with Winter's guidance, they had achieved the impossible. Winter stood at the center of the celebration, a small smile on his face. He knew this was only the beginning. The real test would come with the full moon, but for now, he had won their trust and admiration. He had shown them a glimpse of what was possible, and together, they would be ready for whatever came next. "Tonight, we celebrate," Winter said, raising his voice above the crowd. "But tomorrow, we prepare for the full moon. We will turn your brother's curse into our greatest weapon. Together, we will defeat the elders and ensure the safety of your tribe." The tribe members cheered louder, their spirits lifted by Winter's words. They believed in him, and with his leadership, they felt invincible. Winter knew that the battle was far from over, but he also knew that he had found a way to unite the tribe and turn their greatest fear into their greatest strength. And with the full moon approaching, he was ready to execute his plan and take the next step in his journey. Speaking with the chief the next day, the chief asked Winter to name a reward, as it was a custom to reward the brave in their tribe. Winter spoke. "Yes, I would like to borrow many workers to come with me to the volcanic area. We need to mine silver and lots of it." The chief replied, "For weapons." "No," Winter said, "for my reward." After a long day collecting the materials to smelt more silver, Winter said, "That's enough." He took all the materials to his makeshift smelting oven. The villagers could hear hammering and banging. As darkness fell, the village still saw sparks coming from where Winter was working with the materials. When he was done, he emerged from his cave, his face now covered by a crude silver mask. He spoke with authority. "The moon will be full tonight. Take me to Arik. It is time." They arrived just as the moon rose in the sky. Arik was already writhing in pain and agony. Before long, he was fully transformed into the wolf. Bound and caged, Arik was trapped. Winter approached the cage, the glint of his silver mask catching the moonlight. "I put my arm in there for him to bite me," Winter said, his voice steady. "When he does, pull me out fast. I do not want my arm taken off." Tarik looked on, confused and concerned. "No, if you turn, you will kill us." "No," Winter said. "I understand the lichen. I understand the brain chemistry and why you transform. Everything is science. I will control the beast within me. I have seen it done. I can do it." He passed Tarik his silver-tipped spear. "If I should become crazed, simply stab me with this. It will do the job." Winter prepared to place his arm into the cage. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for the pain and the transformation to come. The villagers watched in stunned silence, unsure if Winter's plan was madness or genius. Slowly, Winter extended his arm through the bars of the cage. The werewolf Arik snarled, his eyes wild and feral. In a swift motion, Arik's jaws clamped down on Winter's arm, the pain searing through his body. Winter gritted his teeth, giving the signal to pull him out. The villagers acted quickly, yanking Winter's arm free from the cage, just as the bite marks began to fester. Winter fell to the ground, his body convulsing as the transformation took hold. His mind raced, trying to hold on to his humanity, focusing on every detail he knew about the lycanthropic condition. The villagers, on edge, gripped their weapons tightly, ready to act if Winter lost control. Minutes felt like hours as Winter fought the beast within. His muscles contorted, his bones cracked and reshaped. He let out a primal roar, but then, just as suddenly, it stopped. Winter stood up, his eyes still human, his mind still his own. "I told you," he said, panting heavily. "I can control it." The villagers let out a collective sigh of relief, their admiration for Winter growing even more. He had done what seemed impossible, proving once again that he was not just a man, but something far more extraordinary. "Now," Winter said, his voice steady despite the ordeal he had just endured. "We will use this to our advantage. With the power of the lichen and the knowledge of the Elder's weaknesses, we will ensure this tribe's survival and prosperity." The villagers cheered, their faith in Winter solidified. The real test would come with the next full moon, but for now, they had hope. A hope that Winter would lead them to victory and a future free from the terror of the Elders. Winter began to unlock Arik's cage. "Stop, this is too much," said Tarik. "Arik is not like you." "I know," Winter replied as he unbound the fierce werewolf. Arik, ready to lunge at the tribespeople, was stopped short by a huge primal roar from Winter. The commanding, primitive howl forced Arik, even in his lichen form, to obey him. Winter was now the alpha. Arik stood next to Winter, a pack member following the command of its alpha. No longer able to speak, now fully transformed, Winter gave a deep growl, a command for Arik to follow. They leaped off into the darkness, in the direction of the tribe of the Night's Shadow. As he sped towards the opposing tribe, Winter felt the primal force coursing through him, his mind constantly battling to hold back the rage of the wolf. They arrived at the village. Winter howled. Arik joined him. The howls were ones of defiance and challenge. The two lichen stood in the village. The villagers ran in fear. 4 elders emerged from the shadows. One spoke, the leader, Eldrick. "I take it you can understand me, or you would be savage in this village already." Winter nodded. Eldrick continued, "And of course, you have not torn us to shreds already." One of the other elders, Variel, spoke up. "Let's kill them already." Arik turned his head, his eyes aflame with primal rage. Winter held up a huge clawed hand. One clawed finger waved back and forth in a gesture of Winter pointed to the sky, at the moon, then left the 4 elders standing there. Winter motioned Arik to follow. They left, the elders confused, apart from Eldrick, who said, "I think he will be back again when the moon does not shine." Variel spoke up. "Good. Without the lichen form, we can kill him." Eldrick replied, "I'm not so sure. There is something strange about this one." Winter and Arik returned to the village of the Moon's Embrace. The tribespeople looked at Winter with a mix of awe and fear. Winter transformed back into his human form as the moon waned, his body exhausted but his mind sharp. "We must wait for the cycle of the moon to end," Winter told the chief. "We have shown them our strength. Now we must show them our cunning." The chief nodded, his trust in Winter growing stronger. The tribe began to prepare for the next phase of Winter's plan. Winter knew that the next confrontation with the elders would be critical. He needed to find a way to leverage the tribe's newfound confidence and the power of the lichen to secure a lasting victory over the elders. Days passed, and as the full moon cycle ended, Winter gathered the tribe. As they prepared, Winter couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was at play. He knew the elders were cunning and powerful, but he also knew that the bond he shared with the lichen and the trust he had built with the tribe were his greatest strengths. The night before the attack, Winter stood alone, looking up at the stars. "This has to work," he whispered to himself. "For Mara, for all of us." The next day, as the sun set and the tribe gathered for the assault, Winter felt a surge of determination. He was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, confident that his intellect, courage, and the loyalty of his newfound allies would see them through. As usual, everyone, except Winter, was confused about why Winter had decided to return on a night with no moon. Tarik, Arik, the chief, and the warriors all tried to tell him this was certain death. Winter nodded and spoke. "Do not fear, my friends. I know what I am doing. and I doubt I have the time to educate you on why it will work." That night, Winter set off for the tribe of the Night's Shadow. After some time he arrived, alone. The villagers watched him, his silver mask reflecting the fires from the camp. In the center of the village, the 4 elders stood. Eldrick greeted Winter. Eldrick spoke. "Have you come to challenge us in your man form?" Winter replied, "You seem to have some level of intelligence. You must understand that you can never defeat the tribe of the Moon's Embrace. You simply cannot kill a Lycan. They also understand they can never defeat you, as on the nights of the moon, you can hide in shadow." A stalemate. Varel spoke. "I could simply kill you right now, so you could never become a Lycan again." Winter removed his mask and spoke. "You could try, but that would be one less elder for you." With that, something unbelievable happened. Winter began to change into his Lycan form. Varel backed off in fear. Then Winter transformed again into his human form and replaced his silver mask. "You see, I have the ability to control the flow of chemicals in my brain, the exact reaction needed to transform, normally brought on by the moon, but I am in full control of my cognitive and primal sections of my mind," Winter explained, his words brimming with so much intelligence that even the elders were in awe of his power. Winter spoke. "Now let's cut to the chase. What's it going to take to bring peace between your 2 tribes?" Varel spat. "Peace between Lycan and elders? That's impossible." Winter replied, "Ha! One of my most trusted friends is an elder, and my son is a Lycan, and they get on just fine." Eldrick, sensing the possibility of something greater, spoke. "We are at war with the other tribe because they refuse to share the lands and resources equally. They see us as parasites, but we only take what we need to survive. They believe we are the cause of their hardships, and so they hunt us, leaving us no choice but to fight back." Winter nodded, understanding the depth of the conflict. "Then perhaps a solution lies in cooperation. I propose a council where representatives from both tribes can discuss and negotiate terms of peace and cooperation. If we work together, we can ensure that both tribes have what they need to thrive." Varel scoffed. "And why should we trust you?" Winter replied, "Because I have nothing to gain from your conflict. I am here to help both tribes find a way to coexist. If I wanted to destroy you, I would have done it already." Eldrick, thoughtful, said, "Your words carry weight, Winter. If you can convince the tribe of the Moon's Embrace to come to the table, we will consider your proposal." Winter nodded. "I will speak with them and return with their answer." With that, Winter turned and left the village, his mind already working on how to bring the 2 tribes together. He knew it would not be easy, but he was determined to find a way to bring peace to this land. The chief of the tribe of the Moon's Embrace spat on the floor. "There is no way we will trust the elders. They are parasites. They feed off my people." Winter spoke calmly. "They do so in response to being denied the lands they wish to use. That cave area, I think it was their home, but your land sits on it. Plus, Arik is now in tune with the primal. He could destroy them if he chooses, but he also has the ability to calm his rage. He will now be a protector, not a curse, a champion for good in your tribe." Tariq rose up. "For this, I would stand by your side, Winter." Several others also stood, their trust in Winter strong. The chief looked around, his people's trust in Winter evident. After a long conversation, he finally agreed. That night, the elders, along with the chief and warriors from the tribe of the Night's Shadow, appeared at the edge of the village. The tribe of the Moon's Embrace met them, Standing face to face with tension thick in the air, Winter moved and stood between them. Winter began to speak, his voice strong and clear. I understand your mistrust and your anger. I understand the pain and suffering each of you has endured. But let me tell you about my loved ones. My closest and most trusted allies are Lycans and Elders. Even those Elders who once sought to destroy me now respect me. Elders are born from pain, but it no longer needs to be this way. Lycans are born from rage, and this too can end. Arik will now be a champion, not a curse. The Elders will know peace, but this can only be achieved through cooperation and trust. Winter paused, letting his words sink in. The alternative is an endless war where many will die, and peace and courage will never be known. His voice then changed, taking on a tone of stern authority. And there is also one more alternative. You will face the wrath of Winter. It is my duty to bring you together, and should any of you disrupt this duty, I will be most displeased. With that, Winter ignited more of his firework tricks. Flames shot from his hands, and an explosion erupted behind him, creating a dramatic display that left the tribes awestruck. The two tribes sat for many hours in discussion. Finally, an agreement was made. They would share the lands and resources, and the Elders could visit the caves of their ancestors. They decided to select a leader to oversee the peace and ensure no one broke the treaty. They selected Winter, as he was an outsider, and would rule over both tribes as an overseer. Winter smiled, realizing he had conquered the two tribes with peace. He spoke to the Elders, Tariq, Arik, and the chiefs. My work here is done. I will be watching you all to ensure you work together for peace. My rule cannot be questioned. Should anyone break this, I shall return with vengeance. From behind Winter, a golden portal of energy opened, and out stepped Reality. You have done the impossible, Reality said. This was not meant to be achieved, but you have done it. Reality bends to your will, Winter. You shall return to it. The Shadow Realm will cease to be, and its inhabitants will be returned to reality. The world will be as it was before. Reality trusts you to ensure no supernaturals, no gods, or even man will disrupt the balance of reality. Winter replied, You have my word. In the blink of an eye, Winter found himself back in his home. Mara stood there, tears welling up in her eyes as she saw him. They embraced tightly, the weight of years and unimaginable struggles finally lifting. I visited the Graham family, Mara said softly, only to find your mask instead of the Alpha. Winter smiled, a mix of relief and joy flooding his face. The Alpha. He's been with me in the Shadow Realm. He's always been there. Their reunion was heartfelt and tender, both of them holding on to each other as if afraid to let go. The years of separation melted away in that embrace. Suddenly, the Alpha of Winter bounded up to Winter, knocking him to the floor with a playful force. Winter laughed heartily, hugging the massive creature. The Alpha Prime strolled up next, brushing against Winter with a deep sense of loyalty and affection. We are now the guardians of reality, Winter explained to Mara. Should a threat arise, it is up to us to stop it from going too far. Meanwhile, Eldritch once again sat in his hidden location beneath London, plotting his next move. His targets were those who took from others, those who manipulated the system. A dark sense of justice filled his thoughts as he planned his next victims. Sarana moved through the dark streets of New Orleans, her heart feeling an empty void. She missed a connection to someone important, a shadow of longing that haunted her every step. Eldur, the once powerful and ambitious elder, had all but given up. His heart sank through defeat after defeat. He returned to his homeland, now modern Germany, and lay in the mud and rain at the location of his old home. It was the place where he had lost his wife and child, Collapsing, he begged for death to claim him, his spirit broken and his will shattered. All the while, reality watched. It kept a check on the world, ensuring there would never again be another Crimson Dawn. It was a silent guardian, ever vigilant, maintaining the balance that Winter had fought so hard to restore. The end